The contract sits on the glass conference table like an execution order. SEO Kyungrae stares at Clause 17, the one his corporate lawyer highlighted in aggressive yellow marker 3 times. Mandatory media cooperation for comprehensive brand rehabilitation initiative. The words blur together, meaningless corporate speak that translates to one thing. His privacy is no longer his own. His hands rest on the armrests of his custom titanium wheelchair, $42,000 of German engineering that still feels like a cage. The leather is soft against his palms. He's learned to keep his hands still, controlled. Any tremor, any sign of weakness, and the 12 board members sitting across from him will pounce like sharks scenting blood in the water. Director Choi Min-jae sits at the head of the table, perfectly groomed silver hair catching the late afternoon light, streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the boardroom. His Patek Philippe watch glints as he steeples his fingers, a gesture Kyungrae recognizes from years of working together. It's Choi's tell, the thing he does right before delivering a killing blow in negotiations. Sajangnim, Choi begins, and even the honorific sounds like a question now, like the board is no longer certain Kyungrae deserves the title of president. The shareholders have been extraordinarily patient. 7 months is a considerable amount of time for a major corporation to operate without visible, active leadership. Kyungrae keeps his voice level, corporate smooth despite the rage simmering beneath. I've been working remotely since I was medically cleared. Every major decision has crossed my desk. Every quarterly report, every acquisition, has been filtered through intermediaries. Choi's interruption is surgical, precise. The market doesn't trust intermediaries, Sajangnim. They trust faces, physical presence, authority demonstrated, not implied. You haven't been seen in public since the accident. Not at a single board meeting. Not at the annual shareholder conference. Not even at the charity gala your own foundation sponsors. The word accident hangs in the air like an accusation, heavy with everything unsaid. The crash, the wheelchair, the wife who left, the CEO who disappeared. Secretary Park. So Young shifts in her seat near the door, the only person in this room who still looks at Kyungrae the way she did 7 months ago. Before the accident transformed him from one of the most powerful men in Seoul into someone people whisper about in elevators, voices dropping when he wheels past. We've taken proactive measures, Choi continues, sliding a black portfolio folder across the polished table. It glides smoothly, stops just within Kyungrae's reach. But he'd still have to lean forward, extend his arm, make an effort. Everything is an effort now. We've hired someone, an architect, American specialist in adaptive design. She has an impressive portfolio, museums, corporate headquarters, private residences. She'll be renovating your penthouse, making it fully accessible and functional. We'll be documenting the entire process for a comprehensive media campaign. Kyungrae doesn't touch the folder. You're turning my home into a reality show. We're providing you with a pathway back to public life. Choi's eyes are flat, emotionless. The narrative is already being written, Sajangnim. Abandoned CEO, tragic fall from power. The question is whether you control that narrative or whether it controls you. This renovation project humanizes you, shows resilience, demonstrates that the company's leadership is forward-thinking, inclusive, committed to accessibility, and social responsibility. Social responsibility. Kyungrae tastes the words like poison. You want to use my disability as a marketing campaign. We want to show that disability doesn't mean inability. Director Kim Hae-won speaks up from the middle of the table, her voice carrying that particular tone of false encouragement that makes Kyungrae's skin crawl. This is an opportunity, Sajangnim, to inspire people, to show, I'm not interested in being inspirational. His voice cuts through the boardroom like ice. I'm interested in running my company. Then sign the contract. Choi taps the folder with one manicured finger. Full cooperation with the renovation. Media access within agreed parameters. Public appearances once the project reaches appropriate milestones. In exchange, the board tables the emergency succession vote scheduled for next week. The silence that follows is deafening. Kyungrae looks around the table. 12 faces he's known for years. Some of them he hired. Some of them owe their entire careers to him. And every single one of them is ready to remove him from power if he doesn't perform like a trained SEAL. And if I refuse? Choi doesn't blink. The vote proceeds. And I think we both know how it will go. It's not a choice. It's an ultimatum dressed in corporate language. Kyungrae reaches for the fountain pen So Young placed beside him earlier. One of the few things positioned where he can actually reach it without struggling. The Mont Blanc feels heavy in his hand, weighted with more than just gold and resin. He signs. Quick, brutal strokes. Done. When does she arrive? His voice is hollow. Choi checks his watch with theatrical precision. She's already in the building. Should be here in approximately 90 seconds. Kyungrae's head snaps up. What? The boardroom door opens before anyone can answer. She doesn't knock, doesn't wait for permission, doesn't offer the customary bow that Korean business etiquette demands. Naima Cross walks into the room like she owns it, carrying a professional clipboard, a tablet under one arm, and a confidence that fills the space before she even speaks. She's tall, probably 5'10" without the low heels she's wearing, with rich dark brown skin that seems to glow under the fluorescent lights. Her hair is pulled back in a high, voluminous bun that adds inches to her presence. She's wearing a beige linen jumpsuit with a caramel leather belt, practical but undeniably stylish, and her eyes sweep the room with the assessing gaze of someone who measures spaces for a living. She doesn't look at the board members. She looks at the room itself. Door frame width, table height, distance between chairs, the 2 steps leading down to the sunken seating area by the windows. Then her eyes land on Kyungrae, not on the wheelchair, on him, on his face. Direct eye contact that doesn't flinch, doesn't fill with pity, doesn't look away. 80 centimeters, she says. Her voice is clear, American accented, matter of fact. The room falls silent. Excuse me? Choi sputters, clearly not accustomed to being ignored. Naima still doesn't look at him. Her eyes are locked on Kyungrae. The doorframe to your penthouse. I measured it on my way up. Standard luxury construction, expensive finishes, completely non-functional for actual use. 80 centimeters wide. She glances down at his wheelchair, back up to his face. Your chair is 85 centimeters at the widest point. How long have you been trapped in your own home, Mr. CEO? The question lands like a bomb in the middle of the boardroom. Kyungrae feels something crack open in his chest. Anger, recognition, shame, relief, all mixed together into something he can't name. That's... Choi starts. A safety hazard and a violation of basic accessibility standards. Naima finishes, finally turning to acknowledge the board. I've reviewed the architectural plans for Mr. CEO's residence. It's a beautiful space, completely unusable for someone in a wheelchair. Every room designed for visual impact, zero consideration for functional living. She sets her clipboard down on the conference table, just far enough from Kyungrae that he'd have to reach, have to make an effort. The movement is deliberate, a test. Ms. Cross, we appreciate your expertise. Director Kim begins in that same condescending tone. But perhaps we should discuss. We can discuss while I work. Naima pulls out her tablet, starts making notes. I'll need full access to the penthouse, starting tomorrow. Structural modifications will take approximately 6 to 8 weeks depending on materials delivery. I'll need to know Mr. CEO's specific mobility requirements, daily routines, work habits. This isn't about making things look accessible. It's about making his life functional. She looks at Kyungrae again. You'll need to be available for consultations. This only works if you tell me what you actually need, not what you think looks acceptable. The challenge in her voice is unmistakable. Kyungrae has spent 7 months being handled with kid gloves, careful voices, pitying looks. People speaking slowly, as if the accident damaged his hearing, his intelligence, his fundamental humanity. This woman just walked into a boardroom full of executives and treated him like an equal, like someone worth challenging, like a person, not a problem to be solved. Tomorrow morning, he says, 9 a.m. Naima nods once, crisp and professional. I'll be there. She leaves without another word. No goodbye, no bow. Just the sound of her practical heels on the polished floor, the door closing firmly behind her. The boardroom erupts in murmurs. Choi looks furious. Director Kim looks scandalized. So Young catches Kyungrae's eye from across the room. There's the ghost of a smile on her face. Kyungrae looks down at the contract he just signed. At Clause 17 that will bring cameras and strangers into his home. That will turn his private struggle into public consumption. But he also thinks about the way Naima looked at him. Not down. Directly across. Like an equal. For the first time in 7 months, something that isn't despair flickers in his chest. He's not sure if it's hope or just curiosity, but it's something. And after 7 months of feeling nothing but rage and grief, something is enough. To none if a contract forced you to let a stranger into your most vulnerable spaces, into the home that's become your prison, into the life you're barely surviving, would you let them see the walls you've built? Or would you discover that sometimes the person who comes to fix your house ends up rebuilding everything you thought you'd lost? Subscribe so you don't miss what happens when blueprints become so much more than measurements, and architecture becomes the language of second chances. The penthouse is 42 floors above Seoul, and Seo Kyungrae hasn't left it in 3 months. Not because he can't. The wheelchair folds, fits in cars, navigates elevators. He's been to medical appointments, driven in the company car with tinted windows, transferred quickly from vehicle to building to avoid cameras and questions and the weight of people's stares. But he hasn't left by choice. Hasn't gone anywhere that wasn't absolutely medically necessary. Because leaving means being seen, and being seen means confirming what everyone already whispers, that he's broken, diminished, less than what he was. The penthouse itself is a monument to the man he used to be. 4-meter ceilings that create dramatic vertical space completely wasted on someone who can't stand. A floating staircase made of glass and steel, spiraling up to a loft office that might as well be on the moon for all the access he has to it now. The kitchen is an architect's wet dream. Marble countertops, professional-grade appliances, an island so high he can't see over it, let alone use it to prep food. The refrigerator handles are at shoulder height for a standing person. The cabinets require a ladder. The sink is too deep, the faucet too far. The master bathroom is worse. A soaking tub elevated on a marble platform, 3 steps up. A glass-enclosed shower with a 6-inch lip to step over. Towel racks mounted at 6 feet. A mirror that reflects his face but cuts off at his chest when he's seated, showing him a partial person, incomplete. Every room screams the same message. You don't belong here anymore. Kyungrae sits in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows that make up the entire western wall of the living room. It's golden hour, that perfect time just before sunset, when Seoul turns from steel and glass into something softer, almost beautiful. The Han River cuts through the city like a silver ribbon. Namsan Tower glows in the distance. Somewhere down there, millions of people are living their lives, walking on legs that work, opening doors that fit them, existing in spaces designed for their bodies. His reflection stares back at him from the window glass. A ghost in a $12,000 Brioni suit that hangs differently now that he's lost muscle mass from months of limited mobility. His face is thinner, sharper. There are shadows under his eyes that no amount of expensive concealer can hide. His hair is still perfect, though. His stylist comes to the penthouse twice a month, one of the few people he allows inside, impeccably cut and styled like armor. The wheelchair beneath him costs more than most people make in 6 months. Titanium frame, custom cushioning, state-of-the-art wheels. It's painted a sleek gunmetal gray that matches his aesthetic. It's supposed to be liberating, this expensive mobility device. Instead, it's just a different kind of cage. His phone buzzes. A message from So Young. She's on her way up. ETA 3 minutes. Kyungrae doesn't respond. There's nothing to say. This is happening whether he wants it or not. He wheels away from the window. The movement is smooth, controlled, practiced. He's had 7 months to master moving without looking like he's struggling. 7 months to perfect the art of appearing unbothered by the body that betrayed him. The living room is pristine, minimalist. Everything in its place because he can't afford the chaos of misplaced objects when retrieving them might require asking for help. The couch is a low-slung modern piece, comfortable enough, but not ideal for transfers. The coffee table is glass and chrome, beautiful and completely impractical. Too high for him to use from the wheelchair, too fragile to lean on. There's a pile of takeout containers in the kitchen trash that So Young will discreetly remove later. 7 months of delivery food because cooking requires reaching things, using appliances positioned for standing, navigating a space designed for a body he no longer has. The doorbell doesn't ring. The door just opens. Kyungrae tenses. He gave So Young the access code weeks ago when it became clear that waiting for him to answer the door was creating awkward situations. But he still hates it. The loss of control. The inability to decide who enters his space and when. Sejangnim. So Young enters first, ever professional in her navy blazer and white blouse, her expression apologetic. Ms. Cross insisted on starting immediately. I explained that you might prefer to schedule. Naima Cross walks past her without waiting for the introduction to finish. She enters the penthouse the way she entered the boardroom yesterday, with complete confidence, taking in the space with an assessing gaze that's more interested in function than beauty. She's wearing dark jeans today, a crisp white button-down with the sleeves rolled to her elbows, and the same practical low heels. Her hair is in the same high bun. She has a professional camera hanging around her neck, a leather messenger bag over one shoulder, and she's pulling out a tape measure before she's even fully through the door. Good morning, Mr. SEO. Her greeting is brisk, professional. Then she turns to the doorway she just walked through and starts measuring. Kyungrae watches, bewildered and furious, as she makes a note on her tablet, shakes her head, measures again. 80 centimeters, she confirms, more to herself than to him. Actual measurement 79.5. Your chair is 85 at the widest point with your hands on the wheels. She looks at him. Do you use a slim profile when entering, or do you have someone tilt you through? The question is so clinical, so utterly without embarrassment or pity, that Kyungrae doesn't know how to respond. I manage, he says finally, voice cold. That's not an answer. Naima is already moving through the space, measuring doorways, noting the width of hallways, checking the clearance around furniture. Managing could mean you've figured out an efficient system, or it could mean you're damaging your shoulders every time you force yourself through a space that's too narrow. Which is it? What does it matter? She stops, turns to face him fully. Her eyes are deep brown, direct, unflinching. It matters because if you're damaging your shoulders, you're going to end up with rotator cuff injuries that will limit your mobility even further. Wheelchair users get about 40% of overuse injuries in their shoulders from navigating improperly sized spaces. So which is it? Efficient system or daily damage? Kyungrae's jaw tightens. I angle the chair, come through at 45 degrees. Sometimes I have to back up and try again. How many times? What? How many attempts does it usually take? The question feels invasive, humiliating. But she's asking it with the same tone someone might use to inquire about coffee preferences. Neutral, professional, waiting for data. 3 or 4, he admits. Sometimes more if I'm tired. Naima makes a note. Unacceptable. We're widening every door in this place to a minimum of 95 centimeters. That's not just code. That's functional clearance with room to spare. She moves to the kitchen, starts photographing everything. The high counters, the unreachable cabinets, the stove with back controls. She opens the refrigerator, notes the position of shelves, closes it, opens drawers, checks their depth and height. Stop, Kyungrae says, and this time there's real command in his voice. The tone that used to make junior executives tremble. Naima doesn't even pause. Can't. I'm on a timeline. This is my home. This is a non-functional space that's preventing you from basic independent living. She closes a cabinet, turns to face him. When's the last time you cooked a meal, Mr. CEO? The silence is its own answer. When's the last time you made yourself a cup of coffee? Not had someone make it for you. Made it yourself. He doesn't respond. When's the last time you took a bath? A real bath in that ridiculously impractical tub I can see from here? Get out. The words are ice. I have a contract. She pulls her tablet out, taps the screen, holds it up so he can see. Full access to all spaces requiring accessibility modifications. That's everywhere. Bedrooms, bathroom, kitchen, office, all of it. You signed. Your board signed. I signed. We're stuck with each other for the next 6 to 8 weeks minimum. Kyungrae wheels forward, the motion aggressive. I didn't sign anything with you personally. My contract is with the board, which means you work for them, not for me. Exactly. Naima meets his approach without backing down, which is rare. Most people instinctively step back when he moves toward them now, like the wheelchair might be contagious. I don't work for you. I work for the project. And the project is making this space livable. You don't get to veto that just because it hurts your pride. My pride is going to get you killed. Her voice is sharp now, cutting. You want to know what I saw when I walked in here? A man who's slowly starving himself because he can't reach his own food. A bathroom that's a safety hazard. A bedroom where the bed is probably at the wrong height for transfers. A living room where every single piece of furniture is positioned for aesthetics instead of function. She takes a step closer, and there's something fierce in her eyes now. Not pity, but anger. Anger on his behalf. This place is beautiful, Mr. CEO. It's also killing you, slowly, one unreachable cabinet at a time. The words hit like physical blows. Kyungrae wants to throw her out, wants to call security, threaten lawsuits, demand the board fire her, but the truth sitting in his throat is sharper than any comeback. She's right. He's been dying in here. Not dramatically, not quickly, just slowly fading, day by day, in a space that rejects his existence. The office, he says finally, voice flat. Start with the office. Everything else can wait. Naima considers him for a long moment. The office is in the loft. I'm aware. Up a floating staircase with no railings and 8-inch treads. I'm aware of that too. So you haven't been in your own office in 7 months. The silence confirms it. Naima makes a note. We'll start with creating a functional office space on this level. Then we'll discuss the rest. Fine. But I'm coming back for the kitchen, and the bathroom, and the bedroom. All of it. She heads toward the door, that same confident stride. She pauses at the threshold, looks back. And Mr. SEO? That couch you're sleeping on instead of your actual bed? It's terrible for pressure distribution. You keep sleeping there, you're going to develop pressure sores. Those get infected. Infections can turn into sepsis. Sepsis can kill you. But sure, keep pretending your pride is more important than your life. The door closes behind her with a firm click. Kyungrae sits in the too bright penthouse, surrounded by beautiful things he can't use, and feels the weight of 7 months crash down all at once. His eyes drift to the coffee maker on the kitchen counter. Top shelf, completely unreachable without help. He hasn't made his own coffee in 7 months. For the first time since the accident, Seo Kyungrae allows himself to imagine what it might feel like to reach that coffee maker without struggling, to cook food in his own kitchen, to take a bath without it being a logistical nightmare requiring assistance and planning, to live instead of just survive. It feels dangerous, that thought. Like hope. And hope has been in short supply lately. But Naima Cross just walked into his mausoleum and called it exactly what it was. A beautiful death trap. Maybe, just maybe, she can help him escape it. Naima returns 3 days later at 6:47 a.m. with a construction crew, power tools, and 0 apologies. The sound wakes Kyungrae from restless sleep on the couch. The same couch Naima correctly identified as a pressure sore waiting to happen. He's been telling himself for months that he'll move back to the bedroom, that he'll figure out a better transfer system, that he'll ask So-young to help him rearrange things. But asking for help requires admitting he needs it, and that admission feels like surrender. The grinding sound of a drill cuts through the penthouse. Kyungrae wheels out of the living room. He's gotten skilled at moving quietly on the hardwood, another adaptation he never wanted to learn, to find the hallway filled with men in work clothes and safety gear. They're measuring the door frame to what used to be his ground floor guest office, the room he'd planned to convert into a functional workspace before inertia and depression convinced him it wasn't worth the effort. The custom mahogany desk that cost $11,000 is in the hallway, wrapped in moving blankets. 2 workers are using laser levels on the door frame, marking measurements in chalk. "What the hell is this?" Kyungrae's voice cuts through the noise, sharp with authority that's supposed to command instant obedience. The workers pause. Look at him. Look at each other uncertainly. Naima appears from inside the office, safety glasses perched on top of her head, holding blueprints in one hand and a tablet in the other. She's wearing dark cargo pants today, a gray t-shirt with her company logo, and steel-toed boots. Her hair is in 2 braids instead of the high bun, practical for a construction site. "Good morning." She glances at her watch. "You're up early. You can't just... I sent you an email with the full construction schedule 4 days ago. Detailed timeline, materials list, crew roster, everything." She holds up her tablet, showing a sent email timestamped 11:47 p.m. 3 nights ago. "I also sent a text message, and left a voicemail with your secretary, and had my assistant call your assistant to confirm access." Kyungrae's mind races. He's been ignoring emails that aren't urgent, letting So-young handle logistics, avoiding anything that requires decision-making about the renovation, because thinking about it makes the humiliation too real. "You didn't wait for confirmation," he says, but it sounds weak even to his own ears. "I had confirmation from the board." Clause 9 of the renovation contract states that work begins no later than 5 business days from contract signing. Today is day 5. She walks toward him, and there's something about her posture that reads as deliberate equality. She doesn't lean down, doesn't adjust her position, just stands and talks to him like he's another professional on a job site. "These men have families and a schedule. We're widening your office door from 80 centimeters to 95. We're lowering your desk from 76 centimeters to 68, which is optimal for wheelchair users who are..." She glances at a note, "between 5'10" and 6 feet tall when standing. That's you, correct? How do you know my height?" Medical disclosure from the board, required for proper ergonomic modifications. There's no apology in her voice, just matter-of-fact professionalism. "We're installing adjustable lighting so you can control brightness and color temperature, which helps reduce eye strain during extended work periods. We're repositioning power outlets from floor level to 45 centimeters up, which is reachable without bending or using a grabber tool. We're replacing the current desk chair with a proper ergonomic office chair that interfaces correctly with your wheelchair, because switching between 2 chairs causes unnecessary transfers and increases fall risk." She's reciting modifications like a shopping list, clinical and detailed, and Kyungrae realizes she's done this before, multiple times. This isn't theoretical to her, it's practical knowledge born from experience. "How long?" he asks. 4 days if everything goes smoothly. 5 if we hit complications with the electrical. I have work to do. I can't have construction noise for 4 days. Then work from the living room, or the bedroom, or take actual time off for once. Your secretary mentioned you haven't used a sick day in 3 years. Naima signals to the crew, and the drilling resumes. She has to raise her voice slightly to be heard. "This is happening, Mr. SEO. You can be cooperative and help us make it better, or you can be obstinate and slow us down. Either way, at the end of 4 days, you'll have a functional office. Your choice is whether you want input on the process. It's not quite an ultimatum, but it's close." Kyungrae is about to respond when So-young appears in the hallway, looking uncharacteristically nervous. She's holding a manila envelope, the kind that usually contains bad news. "Sajangnim." Her voice is quiet, meant for his ears only. but in the chaos of construction, it's hard to have a private conversation. This came by courier. No return address. The delivery man said it was urgent. Something in her tone makes Kyungrae's stomach drop. He takes the envelope, wheels back into the living room for privacy. Naima catches the movement, the shift in energy, but doesn't comment. Inside the envelope, photographs. Kyungrae at his last medical appointment 2 weeks ago. The images are invasive, clearly taken without permission. Him being transferred from the wheelchair to the exam table, a process that requires assistance and leaves him vulnerable and exposed. His face is caught mid-grimace, pain and effort and humiliation all captured in high-resolution detail. Another photo shows him in the parking garage, struggling to position his wheelchair to get into the car. Another in the elevator of the medical building, alone, looking small and defeated. No note. No demands, just the images and the implicit message, I can see you, I can expose you, I can make you look broken. What is it? So Young asks quietly. Kyungrae's hands are shaking. He forces them still. Someone's documenting me, following me. Who would? So Young's eyes widen. Who has access to your medical schedule? The board, my doctors, my lawyers. He pauses, throat tight. And Jiwon's legal team. The asset division required medical records as evidence for the settlement negotiation. His ex-wife, of course. Han Ji-won, who promised to love him in sickness and in health, who walked out 3 weeks after he came home from rehabilitation, who left her engagement ring on the kitchen counter like returning a purchase she decided she didn't want. Why would she? I don't know. But that's a lie. He knows exactly why. Money. Control. Revenge for not being the perfect husband who could walk and stand and perform masculinity the way Korean society demands. Or maybe just cruelty, the desire to see him suffer a little more. He looks toward the office, where Naima is directing the construction crew with confident hand signals, clearly fluent in the language of building and renovation. She's the newest variable in his life, the only person outside his immediate circle who has access to his space. She could be leaking information. Could be selling details to tabloids or gossip sites. Could be documenting everything for some exposé about the fallen CEO and his tragic life. But as he watches her work, completely focused, directing her crew with professional efficiency, her whole attention on the task of making his space functional, it doesn't track. She's not performing for cameras. She's not treating him like a story. She's treating him like a client with specific needs that require specific solutions. Still, trust is dangerous. Trust gets you hurt. So Young must read something in his face because she says softly, I'll look into it. Find out who has access to the security feeds, who knew about your appointment schedule. Discreetly. Of course, said Jangnim. She leaves to make calls, to start the investigation that will hopefully lead somewhere other than paranoid speculation. Kyungrae sits with the photographs, staring at images of himself at his most vulnerable, and feels the walls close in just a little more. The office is finished in 3.5 days, ahead of schedule. Naima knocks on the living room doorframe, an interesting choice since she's never waited for permission before, and says, It's ready. Wanna see? Kyungrae has been avoiding the office, avoiding watching the transformation, because witnessing it makes it real, makes the accommodation necessary instead of theoretical. But he's also been working from a laptop balanced on a coffee table that's too high and hurts his neck, and curiosity wins over pride. He wheels down the hallway. The door is wider now, obviously, noticeably, impossible to miss. The opening feels huge, almost excessive, until he rolls through without hesitation, without calculation, without having to angle and adjust and force himself through a space designed for a different body. The office is wrong. Wrong in a way that's completely, perfectly right. The desk is lower. Not drastically, probably only 8 or 9 centimeters. But the difference is immediately apparent. His arms rest naturally on the surface instead of reaching up. The monitors are mounted on articulated arms that allow for infinite adjustment in height, angle, and depth. The keyboard and mouse are positioned where his hands naturally fall. The door frame is wider, yes, but so is the space between the desk and the wall. The bookshelves have been lowered. The top shelf is now at his eye level when seated. The bottom shelves have been raised slightly off the floor with a toe kick space that allows him to wheel directly up to them. The light switches are at chest height instead of shoulder height for a standing person. The power outlets are mounted on the wall at 45 centimeters up, exactly where Naima said they'd be, and there are USB charging ports built in. The overhead lighting has been replaced with a system of adjustable panels. Naima picks up a small remote from the desk and demonstrates. The color temperature shifts from cool white to warm amber with a simple adjustment. The brightness dims and brightens smoothly. You can save presets, she explains, showing him the remote's interface. Different settings for different times of day, different tasks, bright and cool for morning work, warm and dimmed for evening calls, whatever you need. The chair behind the desk is new, high-end ergonomic design with adjustable everything. But what catches his attention is what's missing. There's no second chair, no place for him to transfer from wheelchair to desk chair. Naima follows his gaze. You don't need two chairs. Your wheelchair is your chair. The desk is built to accommodate it directly. She gestures to the space under the desk. There's clearance for his legs, space for the footrests, no awkward maneuvering required. You can wheel right in, work however long you need, wheel out. No transfers, no extra steps, no wasted energy. It's so practical it hurts. Kyungrae wheels to the desk, positions himself in front of it. His hands fall naturally onto the surface. The monitors are at perfect eye level. He can reach everything. Keyboard, mouse, documents, pens, everything, without stretching or straining. For 7 months, he's been working in pain, shoulders aching from reaching too high, neck cramping from looking up at poorly positioned screens, wrists straining from wrong angles. He's been telling himself it was fine, manageable, not worth complaining about. Now, sitting at a desk designed for his body as it actually is, he realizes how much pain he's been living with, how much unnecessary suffering he's been accepting as normal. Hate it? Naima asks, and there's something careful in her voice, like she's braced for rejection. Yes, Kyungrae says automatically. Liar. The corner of his mouth twitches, almost a smile. It's acceptable. High praise from you, I'm sure. She sets the remote on the desk within easy reach. The crew's coming back tomorrow to start on the kitchen. That's going to be louder and take longer. Full counter replacement, appliance repositioning, cabinet modifications. 2 weeks minimum. No. It's not optional, Mr. SEO. You're malnourished. I'm fine. You're eating takeout for 90% of your meals, and the other 10% is whatever your secretary brings you. Naima pulls out her tablet, shows him something. I asked Ms. Park for your trash analysis. You asked for my what? Your trash. What you're actually consuming. Delivery containers, prepackaged meals, protein shakes, maybe one piece of fruit every 3 days. You're not fine. You're slowly developing nutritional deficiencies that will compound your mobility issues. That's not... You can't just... Kyungrae sputters, caught between outrage and embarrassment. I absolutely can. It's in my contract. Full assessment of living requirements includes nutritional access. You can't access your kitchen, so you can't cook, so you eat garbage. We fix the kitchen, you can eat real food again. She closes the tablet. It's not negotiable. This is invasive. This is thorough. There's a difference. She heads for the door, the wider door that he rolled through without thinking, and pauses. You haven't made yourself a real meal in 7 months. Don't you miss it? Cooking something. Choosing what you eat instead of scrolling through delivery apps. The answer is yes. But admitting it feels like admitting defeat. Naima doesn't wait for a response. Kitchen starts tomorrow, 8 a.m. I'll bring coffee. She leaves. Kyungrae sits at his new desk in his renovated office and opens his laptop. The screen sits at the perfect height. His arms rest comfortably. The chair supports his back correctly. He works for 6 hours straight without pain, without having to stop and stretch and massage cramping shoulders, without fighting his environment for the right to work. When he finally stops, it's because So Young appears with an update. "The security camera footage," she says quietly, closing the office door behind her. "The leak came from inside the building. Someone with board-level security access downloaded the feed from the medical building garage and the elevator. The IP address traces to Director Kang Tae-jun's office." Kang, one of the older board members, someone who's been with the company for 15 years, someone Kyungrae thought was loyal. "Does he have a reason to target me?" So Young hesitates. "There are rumors about him and your ex-wife." The pieces click into place with sickening clarity. Jiwon and Kang, working together, building a case to remove him from power, to force a settlement that benefits both of them. "Can you prove it?" "Not yet, but I'm working on it." That night, Kyungrae tries to make tea. The kettle is on the high counter where it's always been. He looks at it for a long moment, calculating the reach, the risk, the effort required. Then he picks up his phone and calls So Young. "Tell Naima to start on the kitchen," he says. "Tomorrow. Whatever she needs to do." There's a pause. Then So Young's voice, warm with something that might be approval. "Yes, Sajangnim." Kyungrae hangs up and looks at the kettle he can't reach without help. 7 months of this. 7 months of accepting less, of making do, of pretending he didn't need things to change. Maybe it's time to stop pretending. The kitchen demolition begins on a Tuesday morning with the screech of a tile saw and the thunder of cabinets being removed from walls. It's violent, destructive. The beautiful high-end kitchen that was featured in architecture magazines 3 years ago is being systematically torn apart. Kyungrae tries to work through it. His new office is functional and quiet with the door closed, but the sounds are impossible to ignore. Every crash of a cabinet hitting the floor feels personal, like watching the life he used to have being demolished piece by piece. By Thursday afternoon, the space is gutted, empty, just wall studs and capped plumbing where a kitchen used to be. The marble countertops are gone, stacked in the hallway for disposal. The professional-grade appliances have been disconnected and removed. It looks like a wound in the center of his home. One of the workers, a young man named Kim who's been unfailingly polite, always bowing when Kyungrae wheels past, emerges from behind where the old counter used to stand. He's holding something small and glinting in the afternoon light. "Ms. Cross?" He approaches Naima, who's on her knees measuring something on the floor with a laser level. "Found this wedged behind the old cabinet support. Not sure if it's important or just construction debris." He hands her something. Naima looks at it, her expression shifting from professional assessment to something softer, more careful. She glances at Kyungrae, who's emerged from the office to check the progress, to see how much of his old life has been erased today. She walks over to him without ceremony, doesn't crouch or kneel this time, just holds out her hand, palm up. A ring. Platinum band. Single diamond, maybe half a carat. Small, elegant, expensive in an understated way that speaks to old money rather than new. The engagement ring Han Ji-won left the day she walked out of his life. The ring he bought her 7 years ago at a jeweler in Cheongdam-dong, carefully selected to match her aesthetic. Nothing too flashy, nothing too modest. The perfect symbol of an appropriate marriage between appropriate people. Their union wasn't a love match. Everyone knew that. It was strategic, sensible, the kind of alliance that made sense for both families. His tech empire, her family's old money and political connections. A merger dressed in wedding white. But he'd tried. Bought her flowers on birthdays, remembered anniversaries, took her to the restaurants she liked, attempted to build something real from a foundation of business arrangement. And maybe it had been working, in its own distant way. They were content, compatible, good enough. Then the accident happened, and Ji-won stopped pretending she could be married to someone imperfect. "This yours?" Naima asks, voice carefully neutral. Kyungrae stares at the ring in her palm. 7 months of grief and rage and abandonment compressed into 250 grams of metal and stone. It was my wife's, he says finally, voice flat. Was? Ex-wife. Technically still married, but only because the lawyers are fighting over assets. She left 5 months ago. Naima's expression doesn't change. She doesn't flood with pity or sympathy, or any of the performances people usually offer when they hear about his divorce. Instead, something genuine softens in her eyes. I'm sorry. Don't be. The bitterness in his voice is caustic, sharp enough to cut. She made the right choice, for herself. For her, maybe. Naima sets the ring down on a temporary work table the crew has set up, one of the few surfaces that hasn't been demolished. She places it carefully, deliberately within his reach. Not necessarily the right choice for you, or the kind choice, but definitely the choice that protected her from discomfort. You don't know anything about it. I know that ring's been behind a counter for 5 months, and you never looked for it. Never asked your secretary to search. Never had the workers check when they delivered takeout. She crosses her arms, leans against the work table. So either you didn't care enough to search, or you cared too much to face what it would mean to find it. Which is it? The question lands like a physical blow, precise and devastating. Because the truth is both. He didn't look because looking meant confirming she was really gone. Meant accepting that she could walk away from 7 years of marriage after 3 weeks of watching him be disabled. Meant facing the reality that his worth to her was entirely conditional on his ability to walk and stand and perform the version of masculinity she'd signed up for. She left the day I came home from rehab, Kyungrae hears himself say. He's not sure why he's telling this stranger, this American architect who's been in his life for barely 2 weeks. Something he hasn't even told so young in detail. I was in the hospital for 6 weeks. Surgery, complications, more surgery. Then 2 months in inpatient rehabilitation, learning to transfer, to dress myself, to exist in this chair. She visited twice in 3 months. Naima doesn't interrupt, just listens with the kind of attention that feels rare, valuable. When I finally came home, she stayed for 3 weeks, watched me struggle with everything, transferring from bed to chair, trying to navigate a house that wasn't built for me, learning to do basic tasks that used to be automatic. Every day I could see it in her face. Disgust, discomfort, disappointment. I wasn't the man she married. I was something else, something less. Someone disabled, Naima says quietly. Someone broken. The word tastes like ash. One morning I woke up and her closet was empty. Designer clothes, shoes, bags, all of it gone. There was a note on the kitchen counter, this counter before you tore it out, that said she couldn't do this. Couldn't be married to someone who needed help with everything. Couldn't watch me struggle. Couldn't be a caregiver instead of a wife. But you didn't need a caregiver. You needed a partner. Naima's voice is gentle but firm. Those are different things. Are they? Because from where she stood, they looked the same. Then she was standing in the wrong place. The simplicity of the statement cuts through the complexity of his grief. Naima pushes off from the table, and for a moment Kyungrae thinks she's going to leave, going to give him space to process alone. Instead, she crouches down, actually kneels on the dusty, demolished kitchen floor in her work pants, so they're at eye level. It's deliberate, this choice to lower herself instead of making him look up. It's a small thing, but after 7 months of people looming over him, talking down to him literally and figuratively, the gesture hits harder than it should. My marriage ended too, she says quietly, and there's something raw in her voice now, unguarded. Different circumstances. Marcus, my ex-husband, didn't leave because of disability. He left because I was too focused on work, too driven, too unwilling to make myself smaller for his comfort. Said I was married to my career instead of to him. Said I cared more about buildings than our relationship. Maybe he was right. Maybe I did choose wrong. But that doesn't mean I was less. It means we wanted different things, and neither of us was willing to compromise who we were to make it work. That's different from my situation. Is it? Or is it just two different versions of the same story? People discovering that the person they married wasn't compatible with the person they needed to become. She holds his gaze. You changed because of the accident. I changed because of ambition. Both of our partners decided they preferred the old version and weren't willing to grow with the new one. That's on them, not us. The words settle into the demolished space between them like dust motes in sunlight. She said I wasn't the man she married, Kyungrae admits, and his voice cracks slightly on the words. Right before she left. Said I wasn't the same person. Said she signed up for a CEO, a provider, someone strong. Not someone who needed help reaching the coffee maker. You're not the same person. You're right about that. Naima stands, brushes dust off her jeans with efficient movements. You survived a crash that killed someone else. You're living through trauma and grief, and a body that works completely differently than it used to. Of course you're not the same. The question isn't whether you changed. It's whether you're becoming someone you can live with, someone you can respect. That's the only opinion that actually matters. She walks back toward her crew, issuing instructions about the new counter height measurements, and leaves him alone with the ring and the demolished kitchen, and the question that doesn't have an easy answer. Kyungrae picks up the ring. It's dusty, dull, smaller than he remembers. He can barely recall what it felt like to slide it onto Ji-won's finger 7 years ago. The hope he'd tried to feel. The optimism he'd manufactured. The belief that they could build something good enough. He closes his fist around it. That night, after the construction crew has left, and Naima has gone home and the penthouse is silent, except for the ambient hum of the city, Kyungrae dreams of the accident. Not the crash itself. He never remembers the moment of impact, that's lost to trauma and mercy, but the hours before. Sitting in the back seat of the company car, reviewing contracts on his tablet, high on the success of closing a major deal. The driver, Mr. An, elderly and loyal, a man who'd worked for the company for 15 years, trying to suppress a yawn in the rearview mirror. The clock on the dashboard showing 11:47 p.m., almost midnight. Mr. An had already worked 19 hours that day. Corporate shuttle runs, executive transports, airport pickups, an early morning trip to Incheon and back. 19 hours behind the wheel. And Kyungrae, too focused on victory to notice exhaustion, saying, "One more stop, Mr. An. Just one more meeting in Gangnam. Then you can go home. I'll make it quick." Mr. An's face in the rearview mirror. Tired. So tired. But dutiful. Yes, Sajangnim. The streetlights blurring as the car picks up speed on the highway. The soft sound of Mr. An's breathing changing rhythm, deepening, slowing. The slight drift of the car toward the center line. Kyungrae looking up from his tablet, opening his mouth to say something. Then the overcorrection. The violent jerk of the wheel. The squeal of tires losing grip on wet pavement. The sickening sensation of the world tilting. Then nothing. Blackness. A void where memory should be. When he woke up 3 days later in the hospital, they told him Mr. An was dead, died on impact. And Kyungrae was alive but paralyzed from T6 down. Incomplete spinal cord injury. Some sensation remaining, no motor function. The doctors used terms like fortunate and could have been worse and grateful to be alive. But Mr. An was dead. And Kyungrae was the one who'd demanded one more trip, one more hour, one more task from a man who'd already given 19 hours that day. The investigation ruled it an accident. Driver fatigue, unfortunate circumstances, no criminal liability. The company paid Mr. An's family a generous settlement. Kyungrae attended the funeral in a wheelchair, said the right words, made the appropriate gestures of grief and regret. But he never told anyone the full truth. Never admitted that he'd seen the signs of exhaustion and ignored them. Never confessed that Mr. An's death was the direct result of his own selfish ambition and thoughtless cruelty. That guilt lives in him like a second spine, parallel to the one that no longer works. Permanent. Unforgivable. Kyungrae wakes gasping, sweat-soaked, his heart hammering against his ribs hard enough to hurt. The penthouse is silent and dark. The city lights filter through the windows, casting familiar shadows across unfamiliar emptiness where his kitchen used to be. The ring sits on his nightstand where he brought it before sleeping. It catches the ambient light, glinting like an accusation. He picks it up, feels its weight, remembers buying it, presenting it to Ji-won in a fancy French restaurant, her practiced surprise and appropriate excitement. Remembers their wedding, elaborate, expensive, 300 guests, more about family pride and business connections than personal commitment. Remembers 7 years of a marriage that was fine, functional, good enough, until it wasn't. Until he became someone who needed instead of provided, someone who required instead of commanded, someone broken instead of whole. Ji-won couldn't handle that transformation, couldn't love him through it. And maybe that's fair. Maybe he's asking too much to expect someone to stay when the fundamental terms of the relationship changed without consent. Or maybe Naima is right. Maybe Ji-won just didn't want to grow. Didn't want to expand her definition of worth beyond walking and standing and performing strength. Kyungrae doesn't know which version is true. Probably some combination of both. What he does know is that the ring represents a version of himself he can never return to. And keeping it feels like clinging to a ghost. He throws it. Hard. Puts real force behind it. The ring bounces off the wall with a sharp ping, skitters across the hardwood floor, disappears under the bed he can't easily reach without help. Good. Let it stay there with all the other things he's lost. All the pieces of his old life that don't fit anymore. Kyungrae lies back down, stares at the ceiling, and tries not to think about Mr. On, or Ji-won, or the person he used to be, who made choices that destroyed lives and marriages in equal measure. But the thoughts come anyway. They always do in the quiet hours when sleep refuses to return, and the weight of everything presses down like physical force. He thinks about the architect who looked at his demolished kitchen and saw potential instead of destruction. He thinks about the way Naima kneels instead of looming, meets his eyes instead of looking away, challenges him instead of coddling. He thinks about the question she asked, "Are you becoming someone you can live with?" He doesn't know the answer yet, but for the first time in 7 months, he's willing to try to find out. The new kitchen takes shape over 2 weeks like a slow revelation. Naima brings Kyungrae into the decision-making process for everything. Countertop height, cabinet depth, appliance placement, drawer hardware. At first, he resents it. Resents having to think about accommodations, having to specify his needs, having to admit that standard design doesn't work for his body. But Naima doesn't frame it as accommodation. She frames it as customization. You're 6 feet tall when standing, which means you have a longer reach than someone who's 5'4", she explains, showing him samples of counter materials. Standard accessible design puts counters at 71 centimeters, but you don't need standard. You need optimal for your specific body, your specific chair, your specific reach. I'm recommending 75 centimeters. High enough to be comfortable, low enough to be functional. She's not talking to him like he's broken. She's talking to him like he's a client with specific requirements that deserve specific solutions. It's a small shift in framing. It changes everything. They choose quartz countertops in a warm gray that complements the existing flooring. Soft closed drawers instead of cabinets for base storage. Everything pull-out, nothing requiring reaching into dark spaces. A wall oven installed at counter height instead of requiring bending down. An induction cooktop with front controls. A sink with a shallow basin and a pull-down faucet. Under-counter lighting that eliminates shadows. The refrigerator is the biggest challenge. Standard models have freezers on top, completely inaccessible. French door models with bottom freezers are better, but not ideal. Custom solution, Naima says, showing him a design on her tablet. 2 separate units. Refrigerator at standard height with the main compartment between knee and eye level for you. Freezer drawer next to it. Pull-out design. Everything within reach, nothing requiring strain. It's practical, expensive, perfect. This is excessive, Kyungrae protests, looking at the cost estimate. This is functional. There's a difference. Naima doesn't back down. You're going to use this kitchen every day for years. Decades, hopefully. Spending money on design that actually works for you isn't excessive. It's investment in your quality of life. He approves the plan. Watching the kitchen come together is strange. Every modification screams, "Disabled person lives here," to his internalized ableism, the lowered counters, the open space under the sink for wheelchair clearance, the pull-out shelves, the careful ergonomics. But there's also something liberating about it, about designing a space specifically for his body, instead of forcing his body to adapt to a space designed for someone else. On the Friday of the second week, Naima does a final walkthrough with him. Test everything, she instructs. I want you to actually use this kitchen before the crew finishes. If anything doesn't work, we fix it now. Kyungrae wheels into the space. The floor is smooth, level, easy to navigate. He approaches the sink. The counter height is perfect. His arms rest naturally. He turns on the faucet with a single lever control positioned where his hand naturally falls. The water pressure is good, the temperature adjustment intuitive. He opens a drawer. Soft, close mechanism. Smooth glide. Inside, organized storage with dividers he chose. Everything visible and accessible. The refrigerator is at perfect height. The main compartment shelves are all within his reach. He can see everything, access everything. No awkward leaning or stretching required. The cooktop is beautiful. Smooth glass surface, front-positioned controls with clear tactile markers. He can reach all 4 burners easily. Make something, Naima says, leaning against the wall with her arms crossed, watching him with an expression that might be pride. What? Cook. Anything. I want to see how it works in practice, not theory. Kyungrae's heart rate picks up. He hasn't cooked in 7 months, hasn't trusted himself to handle hot liquids and sharp knives, and the coordination required to prepare food. I don't have ingredients. Naima pushes off the wall, opens the refrigerator. It's stocked: eggs, vegetables, milk, butter, fresh herbs. Ms. Park helped me. Said these are things you used to cook with. Before. The word carries so much weight. Kyungrae wheels to the refrigerator, pulls out eggs, mushrooms, green onions. The ingredients are all within reach, easy to grasp. He sets them on the counter at the perfect working height. He finds a cutting board in one of the new drawers. Non-slip backing, exactly where it should be. A knife block with good knives at accessible height. He chops the vegetables. The counter height is right. His shoulders don't ache. His neck doesn't strain. He can see what he's doing clearly. The non-slip mat keeps the cutting board steady. He turns on the cooktop. Cracks eggs into a bowl. Whisks them one-handed, the bowl sitting stable on the counter without sliding. The muscle memory comes back. Years of making himself breakfast before early meetings, before his life became boardrooms and contracts and a wife who left. He heats a pan. The induction burner responds instantly. He can see the temperature clearly, control it precisely. He adds butter, watches it foam, adds the vegetables. The smell fills the kitchen. Real food, fresh food, food he's making with his own hands. He pours in the eggs, watches them set, folds them into an omelet that's not perfect, but is his. When he slides the omelet onto a plate, plates are in an easy access drawer, exactly where they should be. His hands are shaking slightly, not from weakness, from emotion. Naima has been quiet through the whole process. Now she says simply, "How does it feel?" Kyungrae looks down at the omelet he just made in a kitchen designed for his body. Real food, self-sufficiency, independence he thought he'd lost forever. "It feels like I'm alive again," he whispers. Naima's smile is soft, genuine. Good. That's the point. She makes him eat it. Sits across from him at the small table they've positioned in the kitchen nook. Height appropriate, wheelchair accessible from all sides, and watches him take the first bite. It tastes like salt and butter and green onions, and something dangerously close to hope. Thank you, he says, and means it more than he's meant anything in months. You're welcome. Naima stands, gathers her things. Kitchen's officially done. The crew will do final cleanup on Monday, but the space is yours now. She's almost to the door when Kyungrae's phone buzzes, then buzzes again and again. He checks it, and his stomach drops. An email from Jiwon's attorney. A legal notice. He scans it quickly, the corporate language translating into simple threat. She's contesting the divorce settlement. Wants half his company shares, the penthouse, and ongoing alimony. The email includes a line that stops his heart. Should litigation proceed to trial, my client is prepared to disclose previously undisclosed details regarding the circumstances of your accident, including testimonial evidence from multiple parties regarding events immediately preceding the crash. She knows. Somehow, Jiwon knows about Mr. An, about the 20-hour shift, about Kyungrae's role in the accident. His hands go cold. What's wrong? Naima has stopped at the door, reading something in his face. Nothing. Legal issues, not your concern. Kyungrae. It's the first time she's used his given name, and the intimacy of it cuts through his defenses. What happened? He should say nothing. Should maintain professional boundaries. Should remember that she's a contractor hired by his board, not a friend, not someone he can trust with his darkest secrets. But the kitchen she just gave him, the space she designed specifically so he could feed himself, care for himself, live independently, feels like a gift that demands honesty in return. My ex-wife is threatening to expose something about the accident, he says carefully. Something that could destroy what's left of my reputation. Naima's eyes sharpen. Does she have real evidence, or is this a bluff? I don't know. Probably real. She has resources, connections. If she wanted to find out what really happened, she could. And what really happened? The question hangs between them. Kyungrae looks at the kitchen where he just cooked his first meal in 7 months. At the woman who made that possible. At the choice between self-protection and trust. The driver who was killed in the crash, he says slowly. Mr. An. He'd been working for 19 hours straight when I ordered him to make one more trip. I knew he was exhausted. I saw it. I didn't care. I wanted to close a deal, and his exhaustion was inconvenient. So I pushed. He fell asleep at the wheel. The crash was ruled an accident, but it was my fault. I killed him with my ambition and my cruelty. The confession sits between them like broken glass. Naima doesn't recoil, doesn't flood with judgment or pity. She just absorbs the information, processes it. Does anyone else know this? She asks. No, just me, and apparently Jiwon, or her investigators. If she exposes it, what happens? I lose everything. The company, public trust, whatever dignity I have left. He laughs bitterly. Maybe I deserve that. Maybe you deserve accountability. That's different from destruction. Naima crosses her arms, thinking. Is she bluffing? I don't think so. The letter references testimonial evidence from multiple parties. Someone talked. Someone who was there that night. His phone buzzes again. A text from So Young. We need to talk. Security breach. Call me. The world is closing in. Naima must see something in his face because she says quietly, whatever's happening, you don't have to face it alone. You're my contractor, not my friend. No. I'm the person who just watched you cook your first meal in 7 months. That makes me invested. She heads for the door. Call your secretary. Handle the crisis. But Kyungrae, don't let your ex-wife weaponize your guilt. Accountability is important. But there's a difference between taking responsibility and being destroyed by extortion. She leaves. Kyungrae sits in his new accessible kitchen, staring at the omelet going cold on his plate, and wonders how his life became a series of beautiful spaces, haunted by terrible choices. He calls So Young. "Tell me," he says when she answers. And she does. The security footage leak came from inside. Director Kang Tae-jun, a board member he thought was loyal. The same man who's been seen with Ji-won at private restaurants, expensive hotels, quiet meetings that shouldn't be happening. A conspiracy. His ex-wife and a corporate rival working together to force him out. Kyungrae ends the call and sits in the silence of his functional kitchen. He could surrender, step down, take whatever settlement they offer, disappear into private life and never face public judgment. Or he could fight, risk everything, refuse to let them turn his tragedy into their weapon. For the first time in 7 months, Kyungrae considers the possibility that being destroyed might be preferable to living in fear of destruction. But he doesn't have to decide tonight. Tonight he has a kitchen he can use, an omelet he cooked himself, and a contractor who looked at him and saw someone worth investing in. It's not much, but it's something. And after 7 months of nothing, something feels revolutionary. Continuing to next chapters, to reach the required 14,000, 16,000 word count. The threatening letter haunts Kyungrae for 3 days. He works in his new accessible office, cooks small meals in his functional kitchen, maintains the performance of normalcy. But underneath, anxiety thrums like a second heartbeat. Every email could be a bomb. Every news alert could be the exposure he's dreading. Ji-won holds his secret like a knife to his throat, and he's waiting for her to cut. On Wednesday night, he can't sleep. At 2:47 a.m., he gives up pretending and wheels into the kitchen. The space looks different in the dark, softer, more forgiving. The under-cabinet lighting provides a gentle glow when he turns it on. Everything is accessible, reachable, designed for him. He makes coffee with hands that remember the ritual. The process is smooth, easy. No struggling with high shelves or unreachable appliances. Just simple, independent task completion. The first sip tastes like victory. He's sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the dark Seoul skyline through the window, when he hears a sound from the hallway. The front door opening. Footsteps. Kyungrae tenses, reaches for his phone, calculates how quickly he can call security. Naima Cross walks into the kitchen looking exhausted, carrying her laptop bag and a roll of blueprints. "Why are you here?" Kyungrae demands, heart still racing. She stops, takes in the scene. Him at the table, coffee in hand, the kitchen lit like a stage set. "Left my project notes. Need them for a morning meeting with a different client." She sets her things down, then seems to notice his expression. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine. You look like you haven't slept in 3 days." "I haven't." Naima moves to the coffee maker. His coffee maker, the one he can use now, and pours herself a cup without asking. The action is casual, comfortable, like they're friends instead of contractor and client. She sits across from him at the table they position together. "Want to talk about it?" "No." "Want to sit here in silence while we both drink coffee and pretend everything's fine?" "Yes." So they do. For several minutes, they just sit in the dim kitchen while Seoul sleeps outside, and the weight of unspoken things presses down between them. Finally, Naima breaks the silence. "My mother died in a bed." Kyungrae looks up, surprised. "She was bedridden for 3 years," Naima continues, voice quiet but steady. "Miss multiple sclerosis, progressive. By the end, she couldn't move anything except her eyes and a few fingers. I was her primary caregiver for the last 18 months. Thought I was doing everything right, turning her every 2 hours, checking her skin religiously, keeping her clean and comfortable. But I missed a pressure sore. Tiny thing, barely visible on her heel. It got infected. The infection spread faster than the antibiotics could fight it. Sepsis took her in 4 days. The confession sits heavy in the dark kitchen. "I'm sorry," Kyungrae says, inadequate words for enormous grief. "The hospice nurse said it wasn't my fault. Said pressure sores can develop even with perfect care. Said I did everything I could. But I was there. I was responsible. And I missed it." Naima wraps her hands around her coffee mug. "That's why I do this work. Not because I can save anyone. I can't. But I can make spaces that reduce risk, that promote independence, that give people dignity. I can't bring my mother back. But I can make sure other people don't die in environments that were designed to fail them." The vulnerability in her voice is raw, unguarded. "That's why you're so intense about the pressure sore risk," Kyungrae realizes. The couch, the bathroom, all of it. "That's why I'm obsessive. Because I know what happens when you ignore small things, when you think you can manage without proper support. Small failures become catastrophic." She looks at him directly. "You've been sleeping on that couch for months. Your skin is already showing early pressure damage. I can see it in the way you shift positions constantly. You're one bad night away from an ulcer that could hospitalize you. So yes, I'm intense. Because I've watched someone die from something preventable, and I won't watch it happen again if I can help it." The honesty is brutal and beautiful. Kyungrae feels something crack open in his chest. "The driver," he says, and the words spill out before he can stop them. "Mr. Ahn. The man who died in the crash. He'd been working for me for 15 years. Loyal, dedicated, never complained. The night of the accident, he'd already done a 19-hour shift. I could see he was exhausted. He was fighting to keep his eyes open. But I had one more meeting, one more deal to close, and his exhaustion was inconvenient. So I ordered him to drive me across town. Just one more trip. He fell asleep at the wheel. We hit a barrier at high speed. He died instantly. I woke up paralyzed." Naima doesn't interrupt, doesn't judge, just listens with her full attention. "The investigation ruled it an accident," Kyungrae continues, voice rough. "Driver fatigue. Unfortunate. No criminal liability. The company paid his family. I went to the funeral. Said the right words. But I never told anyone the truth. That I saw how tired he was and ignored it. That his death is my fault. That I killed a good man because I valued a business deal more than his safety." "Have you ever said that out loud before?" Naima asks quietly. "No. Not to anyone? Not to therapists, friends, family? No, just you. Right now." The weight of that trust settles between them. Naima is quiet for a long moment, processing. Then she says, "That's an enormous guilt to carry alone. I deserve it. Maybe. Or maybe you deserve accountability, which is different from self-destruction." She leans forward. "You made a terrible choice. You prioritized wrong. You were operating from a place of power and privilege without thinking about the human cost. All of that is true. But you didn't intend for him to die. You didn't want the crash. You made a bad call that had catastrophic consequences. That's different from murder. Is it? Yes. Intent matters. Responsibility matters. But so does the difference between a tragic mistake and malice." She holds his gaze. "Have you changed? Since the accident? Are you the same person who would make that choice now?" Kyungrae thinks about it. Really thinks. "No, I'm not. I understand exhaustion now. I understand vulnerability. I understand what it's like to need help and not be able to ask. If I could go back, I'd send Mr. Ahn home. I'd call another driver. I'd skip the meeting. I'd choose differently. Then you've learned. You've grown. That doesn't erase the harm, but it means you're not the same person who caused it." Naima takes a sip of coffee. "Your ex-wife wants to weaponize your guilt. Use it to destroy you. But there's a difference between being accountable and being destroyed. You can acknowledge what happened, take responsibility, honor Mr. Ahn's memory through changed behavior. without letting someone extort you with your own shame. The words settle into him like truth he's been avoiding. She has evidence, he says. Testimonial evidence. Someone talked. Then let them talk. Tell the truth first. Control the narrative. Admit the mistake publicly before she can use it as a weapon privately. That could destroy my company. Or it could show that you're capable of growth, of accountability, of being human instead of perfect. Naima stands, refills both their coffee cups without asking. I'm not saying there won't be consequences. There will be. But consequences you choose are different from consequences inflicted through blackmail. Kyungrae sits with that thought. They drink coffee in silence as the city begins to wake outside. The sky shifts from black to deep blue to pale gray. Delivery trucks rumble in the streets below. The world turns. At some point, Naima's hand crosses the table and covers his. The touch is brief, warm, grounding. Not romantic, not sexual, just human connection. The simple comfort of not being alone. Thank you, Kyungrae says, when she finally pulls her hand away. For what? For listening. For not judging. For sitting here at 3 a.m. drinking bad coffee. This coffee is excellent. You made it in your new kitchen. She smiles, and it's genuine. And you're welcome. But Kyungrae, 3 a.m. confessions don't leave this kitchen. What you told me stays between us. Always. Deal. Naima gathers her things, the blueprints and notes she came for. At the door, she pauses. Consider telling the truth, she says. Not because I think you should let your ex-wife win, but because carrying that secret is killing you just as surely as a pressure sore. Some infections need air to heal. Then she's gone, and Kyungrae is alone with his coffee and the sunrise, and the terrifying possibility that honesty might be the only way forward. 5 days after the 3 a.m. conversation, Naima proposes something unexpected. Rooftop garden, she announces, walking into his office without knocking. A habit he should probably discourage, but finds he doesn't mind. Kyungrae looks up from his laptop. What? Your building has rooftop access on this level. 20 square meters of completely wasted space. I want to turn it into an accessible garden. She spreads architectural plans across his desk, the lowered desk that fits him perfectly. Raised beds at optimal height, smooth pathways, weather-resistant seating, sensory plants. A place where you can actually go outside. The suggestion hits him harder than it should. Kyungrae hasn't been outside, truly outside, not just carta-building transfers, in almost 4 months. Not since a disastrous attempt at going to a restaurant ended with him trapped at a table too high, in a bathroom too small, surrounded by pitying stares. Why? He asks. Because you need air, sunlight, something living that depends on you. Studies show that access to nature improves mental health outcomes, reduces depression symptoms, promotes independence. She points to different sections of the plan. These are low-maintenance plants, herbs you can cook with, succulents that don't need constant watering, a small Japanese maple for visual interest. Everything at wheelchair height, everything you can touch and care for. This seems excessive. This seems necessary. Naima taps the budget estimate. The board approved it as part of the comprehensive accessibility renovation. It's happening whether you cooperate or not, but I'd prefer you cooperate. He's learning that arguing with her is pointless. How long? 3 weeks. We start Monday. She starts Monday. Watching the rooftop transform is mesmerizing. The construction crew hauls soil and cedar and pavers up the service elevator. Naima directs everything with the precision of a conductor leading an orchestra. This planter here, that pathway there, the seating positioned to catch maximum afternoon sun. By week 2, it's taking shape. Raised beds made of smooth cedar, the top edge at perfect height for him to reach from his chair. Pathways of interlocking pavers, level and smooth enough for easy wheeling. A small covered area with a table and seating built for wheelchair access. On day 17, Naima brings plants. Herbs first: basil, mint, rosemary, thyme. She shows him how to pot them, how much water they need, where they'll get the best light. Her hands move with confident familiarity, and he realizes she's done this before. Many times, probably with her mother. Then succulents, resilient, architectural, sculptural. She arranges them in clusters, creates small ecosystems of green and silver and deep purple. Finally, she brings a jade tree, Crassula ovata. Small but healthy, vibrant green leaves catching the afternoon sun. Jade symbolizes prosperity and resilience in Korean culture, she says, positioning it carefully in a ceramic pot at the center of the garden. It survives drought, poor soil, neglect, keeps growing anyway, adapts to whatever conditions it's given, seemed appropriate. The symbolism isn't subtle. Kyungrae doesn't mind. When the garden is finished, Naima brings him up in the service elevator, larger, actually accessible, unlike the main elevator he's been avoiding. The rooftop space is transformed. What was barren concrete is now a small oasis, green things growing, smooth paths winding between planters, a table where he could work or eat or just sit. And everywhere, the smell of herbs and earth and possibility. It's yours, Naima says simply. Do whatever you want with it. Kyungrae wheels slowly through the space. Everything is within reach. The plants are at perfect height. The pathways are smooth and level. The seating is positioned for comfort and accessibility. He reaches out, touches a basil leaf. The scent releases immediately, fresh and bright. When do I water them? He asks. Jade tree twice a week. Herbs every other day in summer, less in winter. Succulents monthly maybe. She hands him a simple chart. It's not complicated. Plants want to live. You just have to not kill them. That afternoon, after Naima leaves, Kyungrae stays on the roof. He touches the plants one by one, learning their textures. The soft fuzz of lamb's ear, the waxy smoothness of succulent leaves, the rough bark of the jade tree. For the first time in 8 months, he's responsible for keeping something alive, not through delegation or payment, through his own actions, his own care. It terrifies and exhilarates him in equal measure. That night, he sets a reminder on his phone. Water jade tree, Tuesday and Friday. He doesn't miss a single watering. The routine becomes sacred. Every Tuesday and Friday morning, before work, before breakfast, he wheels up to the roof and tends his garden. Checks the soil moisture, removes dead leaves, adjusts positions for optimal sunlight. The jade tree responds. A new leaf appears, then another. Tiny growth, but growth nonetheless. Naima notices on one of her site visits. She doesn't comment, just smiles and makes a note on her tablet. The garden becomes his refuge. When the board sends passive-aggressive emails, when Jiwon's lawyers send new threats, when the weight of everything gets too heavy, he goes to the roof, touches living things, remembers that growth is possible even in difficult conditions. One morning, So Young finds him there. It's raining lightly, and he's sitting under the covered area, watching water bead on succulent leaves. Sajangnim, you have a meeting in 20 minutes. I know, I'll be ready. She doesn't leave. After a moment, she says quietly, This is good. The garden. You seem lighter when you're up here. Naima's idea. Ms. Cross is full of good ideas. So Young's tone is carefully neutral, but there's something underneath it. Approval, maybe. Or hope. She's also been asking questions. About the accident. About Mrs. Han. About the board dynamics. Kyungrae tenses. What kind of questions? Professional ones. Due diligence. Making sure the renovation isn't being used as leverage for something else. So Young meets his eyes. I think she's trying to protect you, Sajangnim, in her own way. She's a contractor. She's someone who cares about outcomes. And right now, you're the outcome she's invested in. It's true, Kyungrae realizes. Naima isn't just renovating his space. She's invested in his survival, his thriving, his transformation from existing to living. He's not sure what to do with that knowledge. The meeting. So-young prompts gently. Right, I'm coming. But he takes one last look at the jade tree, at its new leaves reaching toward light, and feels something shift in his chest. Hope, maybe. Or just the willingness to try. The article drops on a Monday morning at 6:23 a.m., timed perfectly to catch the early business news cycle. Kyungrae wakes to his phone exploding with notifications. Emails, texts, calls from numbers he doesn't recognize. So-young has already sent 14 messages, each one more urgent than the last. He opens the news alert. Fallen CEO's charity case. American architect brought in to fix broken tycoon. The headline is designed for maximum damage. The accompanying photos are worse. Invasive shots of Naima measuring door frames, Kyungrae in the background, looking small and diminished in his wheelchair. Images of the construction crew working on his kitchen. A telephoto shot of him on the rooftop garden, alone, touching the jade tree with an expression that looks vulnerable and defeated from that angle. The article is poison dressed as human interest. CEO Kyungrae, once one of Seoul's most powerful tech CEOs, has become the subject of his own company's diversity initiative. Sources close to the board reveal that American architect Naima Cross was hired not primarily for her expertise, but as part of a comprehensive image rehabilitation campaign designed to humanize the disgraced executive. It goes on. Every paragraph is a knife wound. The piece questions Naima's qualifications, implies she was hired as a diversity token, suggests the entire renovation is an elaborate PR stunt. It paints Kyungrae as a broken man being paraded for corporate sympathy points. The comments section is brutal. Using disability for marketing? Disgusting. That American woman is clearly just capitalizing on his tragedy. He should step down with dignity instead of turning himself into a spectacle. Kyungrae's hands shake as he scrolls through the article. Someone gave the press detailed information. Photos from security feeds. Quotes from unnamed sources close to the company. Intimate details about the renovation timeline, the budget, the scope of work. Someone is building a narrative designed to destroy both him and Naima. His phone rings. So-young. Sajangnim, don't leave your apartment. There are reporters in the lobby. The board is convening an emergency meeting. Director Choi has already released a statement. What kind of statement? Her pause is answer enough. Read it to me. So-young's voice is tight with barely controlled anger as she reads. The board of directors wishes to clarify that the accessibility renovations to CEO Seo's private residence are part of a voluntary corporate social responsibility initiative undertaken to demonstrate the company's commitment to inclusive design principles. Any suggestion that this represents exploitation of Mr. Seo's personal circumstances is categorically false. It's a statement designed to protect the company. It throws Kyungrae under the bus, while maintaining plausible deniability. They're distancing themselves, Kyungrae says flatly. They're protecting their positions. So-young's tone is acidic. Director Choi called me at 6 a.m. demanding to know who leaked the information, as if we would sabotage ourselves. Where did the photos come from? Building security feeds again. Same source as before. Kang's access codes. He's not even being subtle anymore. Kyungrae closes his eyes. The conspiracy is becoming visible. Kang and Jiwon working together to force him out, using his disability and his attempts at independence as weapons against him. What about Naima? Has anyone contacted her? I don't know. I can try to... A sharp knock on the penthouse door interrupts. Not the soft, apologetic knock of So-young or building staff. An aggressive, demanding sound. Kyungrae wheels to the door, checks the security camera display. Naima Cross stands in the hallway looking furious, holding her phone in one hand like a weapon. He opens the door. She storms past him without greeting, phone screen thrust forward. Did you know about this? It's the same article, but on her screen there's a second piece he hasn't seen yet. Naima Cross, opportunist or advocate? Questions surround Black architect's role in CEO's downfall. The article is character assassination disguised as journalism. It questions her credentials, implies she manipulated her way into the contract, suggests she's exploiting Kyungrae's vulnerability for professional advancement. The racial undertones are barely disguised. Affirmative action hire, diversity quota, playing the race card. Photos from her company website, her LinkedIn, her college graduation. Personal details that should be private. Quotes from industry insiders questioning her ethics. She's been exposed, racialized, stripped of her professionalism and reduced to a stereotype. "I didn't know," Kyungrae says, voice tight with rage. "I just saw my article 15 minutes ago. Someone leaked everything, photos, timelines, budget details, the board's private discussions." Naima is pacing, contained fury in every movement. Someone with high-level access has been documenting this entire project and feeding it to the press specifically to make us both look like we're... She cuts herself off, breathing hard. "Like you're taking advantage of me, and I'm too pathetic to notice." "Yes." The word is bitter. "I've spent 15 years building my reputation. 15 years proving I'm not a diversity hire, not a token, not someone who gets opportunities because of demographics. One article and suddenly everything I've achieved is being questioned." Kyungrae's phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. This is just the beginning. Step down, or it gets worse. He shows it to Naima. Her expression hardens. This is extortion. This is my ex-wife and a board member working together to force me out. He wheels to the window, looks down at the city that's reading these articles right now, forming opinions, making judgments. They're using you as collateral damage. Then we fight back. How? They have the resources, the media connections, the narrative momentum. By tonight, this story will be everywhere. My company's stock will drop. Your firm will probably suspend you to avoid the controversy. We've already lost. Naima stops pacing, looks at him directly. So what? We just accept this? Let them destroy us with lies? What else can we do? Tell the truth? The truth is that I'm a disabled CEO who needed help and you provided it. They've already weaponized that truth. There's nothing left to defend. There's everything to defend. Naima's voice cuts through his despair. Our work, our professional relationship, the fact that accessibility isn't charity, it's justice. The fact that I didn't exploit you. I gave you back your independence. And who's going to believe that after these articles? Anyone who sees the actual work. Anyone who understands that design matters. She pulls out her tablet, starts typing furiously. We document everything. We release our own statement. Photos of the finished spaces, testimonials about functionality, detailed explanations of why every modification was necessary. We turn this into a teaching moment about accessible design instead of a scandal. That won't stop the narrative. Maybe not. But it creates an alternative narrative, gives people a choice about which story to believe. She looks up from her tablet. Unless you'd rather just surrender, give them what they want. Confirm that you're too broken to fight back. The challenge in her voice is deliberate, designed to provoke. It works. Kyungrae feels something ignite in his chest. Anger, yes, but also defiance. He spent 8 months accepting losses, accommodating limitations, letting people define him by what he can't do. Maybe it's time to fight back. What do you need? He asks. Access to the building security feeds. I want to know exactly who downloaded those files and when. Proof of the leak. So Young is already investigating. Then we need her evidence, and we need to move fast, before Kang or your ex-wife can cover their tracks. Naima is in full strategist mode now, tapping notes on her tablet. We also need a media contact we can trust, someone who will run a counter story without editorial bias. I know someone, a business journalist who owes me a favor. Contact them. I'll prepare documentation of the renovation work, before and after photos, accessibility standards, testimonials from my other clients about impact. We build a comprehensive case that this wasn't exploitation. It was professional excellence. So Young appears in the doorway. She must have let herself in with the access code. The board wants you in a meeting in 2 hours. They're demanding explanations. Tell them I'll be there. And bring everything you have on Kang. The security access logs, the connection to Ji-won, all of it. So Young's expression shifts to something almost like pride. Yes, Sajangnim. After she leaves, Naima and Kyungrae spend the next 90 minutes building their defense. She shows him photos from previous projects, museums, libraries, private homes, all transformed by accessible design principles. She explains the architectural theory behind every choice in his penthouse, the research supporting each modification, the professional standards guiding the work. This isn't about you being disabled, she says, gesturing to images of the kitchen on her tablet. This is about universal design benefiting everyone. Lowered counters help wheelchair users, yes, but they also help children, shorter adults, people with back problems. Pull-out shelves benefit people with limited reach, but also people with arthritis, elderly users, anyone who struggles with deep cabinets. Good design is inclusive design. That's not charity. That's intelligence. Kyungrae listens, takes notes, feels his understanding shift. The renovations he'd seen as accommodations for his brokenness are actually improvements that make the space better for everyone. The shame he's been carrying is manufactured, a product of ableist assumptions about what constitutes proper design. Why didn't you explain it this way from the beginning? He asks. Would you have listened? You were so locked into seeing yourself as the problem. I needed you to experience the solutions before you could understand the philosophy. She closes her tablet. You ready for this meeting? No, but I'm going anyway. They ride the elevator down together, the service elevator that actually fits his wheelchair comfortably. In the lobby, reporters shout questions, cameras flash, security holds them back. Kyungrae keeps his expression neutral, doesn't engage. The boardroom is tense when they arrive. 12 faces, most of them hostile or carefully neutral. Director Choi sits at the head of the table, expression grave. Director Kang is there too, looking smug and confident. Sajangnim, Choi begins with false formality. These articles are extremely damaging to the company's reputation. The board needs to understand what happened, how private information was leaked, and what steps you're taking to contain the situation. I didn't leak anything, Kyungrae says calmly, but I know who did. He nods to So Young, who's been waiting by the door. She steps forward, connects her laptop to the conference room display. Security footage appears on screen. Kang's office. Timestamp from 3 weeks ago. The video shows Kang at his computer, clearly accessing files he shouldn't have clearance for. Then making phone calls. Then meeting with someone in the parking garage, Ji-won. Unmistakable even from the security camera's angle. Director Kang has been using his board-level security access to download confidential information, So Young explains, her voice professional and devastating. Building security feeds, renovation budgets, architectural plans, personal schedules. He's been meeting regularly with Han Ji-won, Mr. Seo's estranged wife, who has clear financial motivation to force Mr. Seo out of the company. The leaked articles came from files on Director Kang's computer, sent from his email account to known media contacts. The room erupts, directors talking over each other, demanding explanations, looking at Kang with varying degrees of shock and betrayal. Kang's face has gone pale. This is fabricated, manipulated footage. The digital forensics team has already confirmed authenticity, So Young continues. We also have phone records showing 47 calls between Director Kang and Mrs. Han's legal team over the past 2 months. Email correspondence discussing strategies to remove the liability, their words, from company leadership. Kyungrae watches Kang's confident expression crumble. You've been conspiring with my ex-wife to force me out, using my disability, my renovation, my attempts at independence as weapons, leaking private information to the press, all to protect your own position and split whatever settlement Ji-won thinks she can extort. You don't understand the pressure, Kang starts. I understand perfectly. You saw weakness. You exploited it. You thought I was too broken to fight back. Kyungrae's voice is ice. You were wrong. Choi looks genuinely shaken. Director Kang, these are serious allegations. If proven, they're proven, So Young says, displaying another document. This is the metadata from the leaked photos. All accessed from Director Kang's security credentials. All sent from his corporate email account using an anonymizer service that our IT team traced back to his personal devices. Kang stands abruptly. I want to speak with my lawyer. You'll need one, Kyungrae says quietly. Because I'm pressing charges. Corporate espionage, breach of fiduciary duty, conspiracy to commit fraud. All of it. Security is called. Kang is escorted out, still sputtering protests and threats. The remaining board members sit in stunned silence. Choi finally speaks. Sejangnim, the board owes you an apology. We should have investigated before allowing the narrative to... You should have trusted me, Kyungrae interrupts. You should have asked questions instead of assuming I was the liability. You should have recognized that accessibility isn't a weakness to be managed. It's a value to be championed. He gestures to Naima, who's been standing quietly by the wall. Ms. Cross didn't exploit me. She gave me back my independence. Every modification she made was based on professional standards, ergonomic research, and genuine care for functional outcomes. If this company can't see the value in that, then maybe I'm not the one who should be stepping down. The threat hangs in the air. If he leaves, he takes his reputation, his expertise, his vision with him. The company might survive, but it won't thrive. Choi seems to realize this. What do you need from us? A public statement, correcting the narrative, explaining that the renovations were professional accessibility work, not charity, affirming the company's commitment to inclusive design, and a formal investigation into anyone else who might have been involved in Kang's conspiracy. Done. Anything else? Kyungrae looks at Naima. She steps forward. A commitment, she says clearly, to implement accessibility standards across all company properties, to make this about more than one CEO's personal experience, to actually become the inclusive organization you claim to be in your marketing. The board members exchange glances. It's expensive, complicated, requires real change. Agreed, Choi says finally. We'll form a committee. Ms. Cross, would you be willing to consult? Only if Mr. SEO is part of the decision-making process, not as a symbol, as a leader with lived expertise. Choi nods. Of course. The meeting ends. Kyungrae and Naima leave together, security escorting them past the reporters still gathered in the lobby. In the car back to the penthouse, Naima finally exhales. That was intense. You were incredible. We were incredible. Together. She looks at him with something soft in her eyes. You stood up to them. Didn't back down. Because you showed me I didn't have to. Kyungrae realizes the truth as he says it. For 8 months I've been accepting less. Accommodating. Apologizing for existing. You taught me that asking for what I need isn't weakness. It's architecture. Building the life I deserve instead of accepting the scraps people offer. The car pulls up to his building. The reporters are gone. Security must have cleared them. In the elevator, Naima says quietly, there's going to be fallout. More articles. People taking sides. This isn't over. I know. But we're not fighting alone anymore. She smiles. No, we're not. When they reach the penthouse, Kyungrae makes tea in his accessible kitchen. They sit at the table, exhausted and wired, processing everything that just happened. Ji-won is going to retaliate, Kyungrae says. When she finds out Kang got caught, she'll escalate. The threat about the accident, she'll follow through. Then we follow through first, tell the truth before she can weaponize it. Naima meets his eyes. You said the guilt is killing you. Maybe it's time to let it out. Not because she's forcing you, because you choose to. The thought terrifies him, but it also feels right. I'll think about it. he promises. They sit in comfortable silence. Two people who've survived an attack and come out stronger. Outside, Seoul continues its indifferent rhythm. But inside, something has shifted. Kyungrae isn't just surviving anymore. He's fighting back. And he's not alone. The power goes out at 8:47 p.m. on a Thursday. Not just Kyungrae's penthouse, the entire building, and apparently half the district. Maintenance calls it a grid failure, estimates 4 to 6 hours for restoration. Naima is still there, finalizing plans for the bathroom renovation. The sudden darkness traps them mid-conversation about shower controls and transfer bench specifications. "Well," she says into the blackness, "this is inconvenient." Kyungrae navigates to the windows by memory and moonlight. The city outside is a patchwork of light and shadow, some blocks still powered, others dark like his building. It's beautiful in an eerie way, Seoul stripped of its constant electrical glow. His phone buzzes. So Young via text. Elevators are down. Ms. Cross is stuck until power returns. Building security says minimum 4 hours. He shows Naima the message. She sighs. "I have an early meeting tomorrow, but I guess I'm staying here tonight." They feel their way to the living room. Kyungrae has emergency candles somewhere. So Young insists on disaster preparedness, and eventually finds them in an accessible drawer Naima specified during the kitchen renovation. He lights several, creates small pools of warmth in the darkness. They sit in the candlelight, two people who've been working together for months, but have never had this kind of unstructured time. "Tell me something true," Naima says suddenly. "What?" "Something real. Not work stuff, not renovation talk. Something true about Seo Kyungrae that you don't tell people." The question is intimate, probing. In the darkness, with the city half asleep around them, it feels safe to answer honestly. "I'm terrified all the time," he admits. "Every single day. Terrified that this is all I'll ever be, that I've peaked, that the best version of my life ended in that crash and everything from here is just slow decline. Terrified that I'll end up alone because who wants to love someone who..." He cuts himself off. "Who uses a wheelchair?" Naima finishes gently. "Who needs help with things? Who can't be the strong one, the provider, the protector? All the things men are supposed to be. Those are social constructs, not actual requirements for being lovable." She shifts in her seat. "You want to know something true about me? I'm terrified of emotional intimacy. Have been since my divorce. Marcus left because I put work first, and he was right. I did. I chose buildings over him, chose deadlines over date nights. And part of me knows that was wrong, that relationships require investment. But another part of me is still angry that he needed me to be smaller to feel bigger. That's not your fault. Maybe. Maybe not. But it made me careful. Made me keep people at arm's length. Professional distance. Don't get attached. Don't let clients become friends. Don't risk caring because caring opens you up to loss." Kyungrae hears what she's not saying. "But you care about this project." "I care about you." The admission is quiet but clear. Not as a client, as a person. Somewhere in these months of measuring doorways and lowering counters, you stopped being a renovation and became someone She pauses, searching for words. "Someone I want to see thrive. Someone whose happiness matters to me." The vulnerability in her voice is stunning. "I care about you too," Kyungrae says, and realizes he means it more deeply than he's ready to examine. "You're the first person in 8 months who's looked at me and seen possibility instead of tragedy. Who's challenged me instead of coddling me. Who's treated my disability as a design problem to solve instead of a character flaw to pity. It's not a flaw. It's a characteristic, like being tall or left-handed or having brown eyes." Naima's voice is firm. "The world is badly designed for people with mobility differences. That's the flaw, not you." They sit with that truth for a while. Then Kyungrae finds himself speaking again, words spilling out in the protective darkness. "The nightmares haven't stopped. About the accident. About Mr. On. I dream about the moment he fell asleep at the wheel. I dream about the crash I can't actually remember. I wake up convinced I can feel my legs. And then reality crashes in, and I have to relive the loss all over again. PTSD, Naima says quietly. Trauma doesn't follow a timeline. Have you talked to anyone? A therapist? I went to 3 sessions. Couldn't do it. Couldn't sit there and talk about my feelings while the therapist looked at me with professional sympathy and took notes about the poor disabled man who can't cope. That's not therapy. That's a bad therapist. She shifts closer. He can sense her movement in the dark. Grief and trauma need space to exist. Need someone who can witness them without trying to fix them. Sounds like you needed witnessing, not solutions. Maybe. I don't know. I just know I couldn't keep going back to that office and performing recovery for someone who didn't understand. Then find someone who understands. Someone who specializes in trauma, or disability psychology, or... Naima pauses. Or just keep talking to people who care. Midnight conversations in accessible kitchens. Blackouts in living rooms. Whatever works. It's an offer. An opening. Kyungrae takes it. My ex-wife sent another letter, through her lawyers, escalating the settlement demands, threatening to expose what I told you about Mr. On, unless I give her half of everything. Blackmail. Effective blackmail. Because she's right. If that story gets out, it destroys me. The CEO who forced a man to work himself to death. The privileged executive who cared more about business than human life. I'd lose the company, the respect, everything. Or, Naima counters, you'd lose some things and keep the most important thing, your integrity, your truth. Truth doesn't pay legal fees. No, but lies extract a different kind of payment. She pauses. What does she actually have? Evidence-wise? I don't know. The letter mentioned testimonial evidence from multiple parties. Someone who was there that night. Maybe another employee who saw how tired Mr. On was. Maybe GPS records showing his working hours. Something concrete enough to sound credible. Then she's probably not bluffing. Which means you have 2 choices. Pay her off and hope she stays quiet, or control the narrative by telling the truth first. I can't just... Yes, you can. You can write a statement. Explain what happened. Take full responsibility. Honor Mr. On's memory by being honest about the circumstances. Show that you've changed, that you've learned, that you're not the same person who made that choice. Naima's voice is passionate now. People understand mistakes, Kyungrae. What they can't forgive is lying about them, covering them up, pretending to be perfect while hiding the bodies. The phrase, hiding the bodies, hits harder than it should. His family, Kyungrae says suddenly. Mr. On's wife, his children. If I admit publicly that I'm responsible, I'm confessing that I killed their husband and father. How do I do that to them? Have you talked to them? Since the accident? I went to the funeral, sent flowers. The company provided a settlement. But have you talked to them? Apologized? Asked what they need? No. Then maybe start there. Before you make a public statement, go to Mrs. On. Tell her the truth privately. Give her the opportunity to understand what happened before the world does. The idea terrifies him. Facing the widow of the man he killed. Asking for forgiveness he doesn't deserve. But it's also the right thing to do. I don't know if I'm brave enough. He admits. You stood up to your entire board today. You pressed charges against a man who tried to destroy you. You're braver than you think. They fall into silence. Outside, the city is slowly coming back to life. Lights flickering on block by block as the grid restores. In the candlelight, Naima's face is soft, thoughtful. She's been in his life for 3 months. 3 months of measuring and building and arguing and slowly becoming something more than contractor and client. Naima, he says quietly. Yeah? Thank you. For staying. For caring. For not giving up on me when I was giving up on myself. She reaches across the space between them, finds his hand in the darkness. Her fingers are warm, calloused from work, strong. "I'm not going anywhere," she says. "We're in this together." The lights come back on at 11:34 p.m. with a sudden electrical hum. The transition from intimate darkness to harsh illumination is jarring. They both blink, adjusting. Naima pulls her hand back slowly, professionally. "I should go." "Early meeting." "Right. Of course." She gathers her things, but at the door she pauses. "Think about what I said. About Mrs. An. About telling the truth. You don't have to decide tonight, but you don't have to carry this alone anymore either." After she leaves, Kyungrae sits in his newly lit penthouse and thinks about truth and consequences and the difference between guilt and accountability. His phone sits on the table, dark and waiting. He could call Mrs. An's number. It's in his contacts from the funeral arrangements. Could ask to meet her. Could begin the long, painful process of honest confession. Or he could wait. Hope Ji-won is bluffing. Buy himself more time to avoid the reckoning. He picks up the phone. Stares at Mrs. An's contact information for a long time. Then, before he can overthink it, he types a message. "Mrs. An, this is CEO Kyungrae. I would like to speak with you about your husband, if you're willing. There are things I need to tell you about the night of the accident. I understand if you'd rather not meet, but I'm asking for the opportunity to be honest with you." He sends it before he can delete it. The message shows as delivered. Then read. 3 minutes pass. 5. 10. Finally a response. Sunday afternoon. 3 p.m. Hangang Park near Banpo Bridge. I will be there. Kyungrae's heart pounds. He's just set in motion something irreversible. But for the first time in 8 months, he's choosing accountability over self-protection. It's terrifying and right in equal measure. Han Ji-won arrives unannounced on a Friday afternoon, 3 days before Kyungrae's scheduled meeting with Mrs. An. The doorbell rings. Kyungrae checks the security camera, sees her standing there in a white Chanel sheath dress and pearls, hair glossy and perfect, every inch the sole socialite she's always been. His first instinct is to not answer, to let her stand there, ignored, the way she ignored him for months. But curiosity wins. He opens the door. "Kyungrae." Her voice is honey over glass, sweet and sharp. She steps inside without invitation, heels clicking on the hardwood he can navigate smoothly now thanks to Naima's careful path planning. Ji-won's eyes sweep the space, taking in the changes. The widened doorways. The accessible kitchen visible from the entrance. The clean, functional design that replaced the aspirational aesthetics she chose when they lived here together. "You've redecorated," she says, and there's something cold in her tone. "How practical. What do you want, Ji-won?" She perches on the edge of the couch. The new one, actually. The one Naima specified for proper height and firmness for transfers. And crosses her legs elegantly. "I wanted to see you. See how you're managing. I've been reading about you in the news. That scandal with the architect must have been difficult. The scandal you and Kang manufactured. Don't pretend you weren't involved." Her smile doesn't falter. "I have no idea what you're talking about. Though I did hear that Director Kang is facing some unfortunate legal troubles. Such a shame. The performance of innocence is flawless. She's had years of practice." "Why are you really here?" Kyungrae asks. Ji-won's expression shifts, becomes something almost genuine. "I made a mistake. Leaving you. I was scared, overwhelmed. I didn't know how to handle everything. But I've had time to think, to realize what I gave up. What you gave up." He repeats the words, tasting their absurdity. "We were good together, Kyungrae. Before the accident. We had a life, a partnership. We understood each other." She leans forward slightly, and he recognizes the body language. This is her negotiation posture, the one she uses when she wants something. We're still legally married. We could make this work. Try again. Show a united front. The board would love it. The media would eat it up. The devoted wife who came back. The couple stronger than ever. The calculation in her voice is stunning. You're not serious. I'm completely serious. Think about it logically. You need stability, positive PR. I can provide that. And in return, we renegotiate the settlement. Something fair for both of us. A real partnership instead of an adversarial divorce. Let me understand this correctly. Kyungrae keeps his voice level through sheer force of will. You're proposing that I take you back, perform a reconciliation for the media, and in exchange you'll reduce your settlement demands? I'm proposing that we rebuild what we had. We never had anything real, Ji-won. We had a transaction, a merger dressed up as a marriage, and the contract became void when you decided a disabled husband wasn't worth the investment. Her mask slipped slightly. Don't make this about the wheelchair. This is about being practical. No. This is about you needing money and realizing the legal battle isn't going your way. Kang got caught. Your conspiracy fell apart. So now you're here with Plan B. Pretend to care, manipulate my emotions, extract a settlement through performance instead of blackmail. Ji-won stands, and the polite facade cracks completely. You think you're better than me? You, sitting there in that chair, playing victim? You're not some tragic hero, Kyungrae. You're just a man who got exactly what he deserved. The cruelty is breathtaking. Honest, finally, but breathtaking. What I deserved, he echoes quietly. You were arrogant, cruel to employees. You pushed people past their limits without caring. That driver, Mr. An, he died because you couldn't be bothered to show basic human decency. And now you want sympathy? You want people to feel sorry for you? She laughs, sharp and bitter. You're getting exactly what you earned. You're right, Kyungrae says, and sees surprise flash across her face. I was arrogant. I did push people too hard. Mr. An died because of choices I made. I carry that guilt every single day, and I'm working to become someone different, someone better. You can't become anything better. You're stuck, literally. That chair is your ceiling now. You're wrong. And he realizes he believes it. This chair is just a tool, like a pen or a phone. It helps me navigate a world that wasn't built for me. But it doesn't define my worth or my potential. The only ceiling I have is the one I accept. That's a nice speech. Very inspirational. Did your architect teach you that? The sneer is ugly. I read about her. The Black American who's been helping you. How convenient. How diverse. I'm sure the board loves the optics. Naima is a professional who takes her work seriously. She's transformed my life. Given me back independence I thought I'd lost. And yes, I care about her. Deeply. More than I ever cared about the hollow performance we called a marriage. Ji-won's eyes flash with something that might be jealousy or might just be rage at losing control. You're sleeping with the help. How appropriate. I'm building a real relationship with someone who sees me as a whole person. That's something you never did. I saw exactly who you were, a cold, calculating businessman who cared more about profit than people. The accident didn't change that. It just made you weaker. The accident made me different, not weaker. I'm more empathetic now, more aware of other people's struggles, more willing to ask for help and admit limitations. Those aren't weaknesses, Ji-won. They're growth. She stares at him for a long moment, and he can see the exact instant she realizes this negotiation is lost. That whatever power she thought she had over him is gone. You're going to regret this, she says finally, voice tight with controlled fury. I still have ammunition. That truth about Mr. An, I can make sure it destroys you. Go ahead. The calm in his own voice surprises him. Tell whatever story you want. I'm planning to tell it myself. Publicly. Honestly. Take full responsibility. So your weapon? It's only dangerous if I'm hiding. And I'm done hiding. Ji-won's composure finally cracks completely. You're an idiot. You're throwing away whatever dignity you have left for what? Principle? Truth? Those things don't matter in the real world. They matter to me. And they mattered to Mr. An, whose memory you're trying to weaponize for money. That's the real indignity here. She grabs her designer purse, heads for the door, but she pauses at the threshold, looks back. I could have loved you, she says. And for the first time, she sounds almost vulnerable. If you'd been different, if you'd been softer, but you were always so hard, so closed off, even before the accident. I stayed as long as I could, but loving you felt like trying to warm myself on ice. The confession catches him off guard. Then we were never compatible, he says quietly, because I needed someone who could see past the performance, who could love the person under the CEO. And you only ever wanted the successful version, the walking version, the version that made you look good. And you wanted someone who would ask for nothing, who would accept crumbs and call it devotion. We're both guilty of choosing wrong. It's the most honest conversation they've had in years, maybe ever. Goodbye, Ji-won. Goodbye, Kyungrae. She leaves, and he knows he'll never see her again. Their lawyers will handle the rest. The marriage will end officially, finally, with papers and signatures instead of dramatic confrontations. He sits in the silence of his renovated penthouse and feels something release in his chest. Not grief exactly. More like the ending of something that should have ended long ago. His phone buzzes. A text from Naima. How are you holding up? Heard Ji-won visited. He smiles despite everything. Of course she knows. So Young probably told her. Or maybe she just has good instincts for when he needs support. He types back. I'm okay. She wanted to reconcile. I said no. Feels like closing a door I should have locked months ago. Her response comes quickly. Proud of you. That took courage. Another text follows. Also, I'm bringing dinner tonight. You're not eating enough again. Don't argue. He laughs out loud in the empty penthouse. She's right. He's been distracted, forgetting meals, running on coffee and anxiety. What time? He types. 7 p.m. I'm making japchae. Hope you have the ingredients. I thought you were bringing dinner. I am. I'm bringing myself and a recipe. You have a functional kitchen now. Time to use it. He sends back a simple, see you at 7. Then he wheels to the kitchen, checks the refrigerator, which Naima keeps mysteriously stocked through some conspiracy with So Young, and starts mentally preparing for cooking with company. It feels domestic, intimate, like something more than professional contractor and client. It feels like the beginning of something real. Naima arrives at exactly 7 p.m., carrying 2 cloth grocery bags and wearing jeans, and a soft gray sweater instead of her usual work clothes. Her hair is down tonight, natural curls framing her face in a way that makes Kyungrae's breath catch slightly. You're staring, she says, amused, as she sets the bags on his accessible counter. You look different, not in work mode. I'm off the clock. The renovation is technically finished except for final inspections. She starts unpacking ingredients. Sweet potato noodles, vegetables, beef, sesame oil. Tonight I'm just a friend who's concerned you're going to waste away because you keep forgetting to eat. Friend. The word sits between them. Inadequate for what they're becoming, but safer than the alternatives. They cook together. Naima preps the vegetables while Kyungrae handles the noodles. Their movements around the kitchen synchronized from months of working in this space. The counters are at perfect height for both of them. The workspace flows naturally. It's the kitchen Naima designed. But tonight, it feels like theirs. So Ji-won really proposed getting back together? Naima asks, slicing beef into thin strips. She proposed a performance, reconciliation for the media, renegotiated settlement for her bank account. Nothing genuine about it. And you said no. I said no. Kyungrae tastes the words, feels their finality. For the first time in our entire relationship, I chose myself over what looked good, over what was convenient, over what other people expected. Naima glances at him. something proud and soft in her expression. How does that feel? Terrifying. Liberating. Right. He drains the noodles, watching steam rise. She said something, though, before she left. Said I was always too closed off, too hard. That loving me felt like trying to warm herself on ice. Do you think that's true? Probably. I was trained from childhood to be the perfect son, perfect student, perfect CEO. Emotions were inefficient. Vulnerability was weakness. I learned to perform strength and bury everything else. He looks at Naima directly. But I'm trying to change that. To be someone who can actually feel things. Connect with people. Be warm instead of ice. You're already warm. You just needed the right person to see it. She says it casually, focused on her cooking, but the words land with weight. They finish preparing the japchae together, the dish coming together in a symphony of colors and textures. When they finally sit down to eat, it's at the small table in the kitchen nook, the one positioned for easy wheelchair access, and it feels more intimate than any fancy restaurant ever did. This is good, Kyungrae says after the first bite. Really good. My mother's recipe. One of the last things she taught me before she got too sick to cook. Naima's voice holds old grief, worn smooth by time. She said food was love in physical form, that feeding people was how you showed you cared when words weren't enough. Then this is a lot of care. It is. They eat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Kyungrae's phone buzzes with a news alert. He glances at it and his blood runs cold. Another article. This one with photos he's never seen before. Secret romance? CEO Seo Kyungrae and architect Naima Cross caught in intimate moments. The photos are from inside his penthouse, the rooftop garden. Him and Naima standing close, her hand on his shoulder, both of them laughing at something. Another shot from the kitchen during one of their working sessions, their heads bent together over blueprints, the body language clearly intimate, even though the context was purely professional. The article speculates about an inappropriate relationship, questions the ethics of contractor-client boundaries, implies Naima has been manipulating him emotionally for professional gain. No, Kyungrae breathes. No, not again. Naima reaches for his phone, reads the article. Her expression goes from confused to furious to something harder, more controlled. These photos are from inside your private residence, she says, voice tight. From security cameras. Someone's been watching us. Recording us. The whole time. The violation is stunning. Every private moment, every vulnerable conversation, documented and now weaponized. Kyungrae pulls up his security system on his tablet, reviews the access logs, and there it is. Remote access to his private cameras, authorized 3 weeks ago from an IP address he doesn't recognize, but that traces back to Ji-won's legal team. She's been spying on me, he says, voice hollow. In my own home, recording everything. That's illegal. Invasion of privacy. We can sue. She doesn't care about legal. She cares about damage. And these photos, out of context, paired with that narrative, they make us both look guilty of exactly what she's accusing. Naima sets down her chopsticks carefully, like she's trying very hard not to throw something. I've been so careful. Professional boundaries, appropriate distance, never crossing lines, and it doesn't matter. Because someone determined to see scandal will manufacture it from innocent moments. I'm sorry. This is my fault. My ex-wife. My mess. Stop. Naima's voice cuts through his self-blame. This is not your fault. You didn't install spy cameras in your own home. You didn't twist professional interactions into salacious gossip. You're a victim here, same as me. But the damage is done. Kyungrae's phone is already flooding with messages. So Young sending urgent alerts. Board members demanding explanations. Media requests for comment. Then a text from an unknown number. Just the beginning. Withdraw the charges against Kang and give me my settlement, or tomorrow's article will be worse. Your choice. JW. Explicit blackmail. Ji-won isn't even pretending anymore. She wants me to drop the case against Kang and pay her off, Kyungrae says, showing Naima the message. Or she releases more, probably the information about Mr. An, everything. Dear Naima reads the message, and something shifts in her expression. Not fear. Resolve. Then we go nuclear, she says quietly. We stop playing defense. We tell everything. Your truth about the accident. My professional documentation proving our relationship has been appropriate. Security evidence showing Ji-won's illegal surveillance. All of it. At once. So overwhelming she can't control the narrative. That's a huge risk. Bigger risk is letting her control the story forever. Death by 1,000 cuts, each article destroying a little more of your reputation and mine. Naima meets his eyes. I'd rather burn it all down and rebuild from honesty than live under constant threat. Kyungrae thinks about Mrs. An, waiting to meet him tomorrow. About the confession he's already planning to make. About the weight of secrets he's been carrying for 8 months. Okay, he says. We do it together. Full disclosure. Complete transparency. Let the consequences fall where they will. Together, Naima confirms. They spend the next 3 hours preparing a comprehensive statement. Kyungrae writes about the accident, the full truth, his responsibility, his guilt, his commitment to honoring Mr. An's memory through changed behavior. Naima compiles documentation of their professional relationship, contracts, timelines, correspondence, all proving the renovation was legitimate work performed to industry standards. So Young joins them via video call, providing legal documentation of Ji-won's illegal surveillance, Kang's conspiracy, the coordinated attack on Kyungrae's reputation. By midnight, they have a complete package. Truth bombs ready to detonate. We release this tomorrow, after your meeting with Mrs. An, Naima says. Give her the dignity of hearing it from you first. Then we go public before Ji-won can. Kyungrae nods, exhausted and wired and terrified and ready. Naima starts to pack up her things, but Kyungrae stops her. Stay, he says. Please. I don't want to be alone tonight. She looks at him for a long moment. Then she sets her bag down. Okay, I'll stay. She sleeps in the guest room. Appropriate, boundaried, professional. But knowing she's there just down the hall makes the darkness less oppressive. Kyungrae lies awake thinking about tomorrow. About facing Mrs. An. About releasing the truth to the world. About the life he's about to burn down in hopes of building something better from the ashes. And about the woman sleeping in his guest room who's choosing to stand with him even when it means risking everything she's built. For the first time in 8 months, Kyungrae understands what Ji-won meant about warmth. He's finally learning to be something other than ice. He's learning to be human, flawed and honest and brave enough to care. Sunday afternoon arrives too quickly. Kyungrae wheels into Hangang Park at 2:47 p.m., 13 minutes early for his meeting with Mrs. An. The park is busy with weekend crowds, families picnicking, couples walking, children playing near the water. Normal life continuing while his world teeters on the edge of confession. Naima offered to come with him. He said no. This is something he needs to do alone. He finds the spot near Bampo Bridge that Mrs. An specified. A quiet bench area with accessible pathways, partial shade from flowering trees. He waits, rehearsing words that feel inadequate for the magnitude of what he needs to say. At precisely 3 p.m., she arrives. Mrs. An is smaller than he remembers from the funeral. Grief has a way of shrinking people. She's probably in her late 60s, hair more gray than black, wearing a simple navy dress and comfortable shoes. She carries a small photo album under one arm. Kyungrae wheels forward. Mrs. An, thank you for agreeing to meet me. She nods, sits on the bench positioned near his wheelchair. For a long moment, they just sit in awkward silence, while the Han River flows indifferent and eternal beside them. My husband spoke of you often, she says finally, voice soft. He was proud to work for you. Said you were demanding but fair. that you saw potential in people. The words are knives coated in kindness. He was a good man. Kyungrae manages. I didn't deserve his loyalty. No, she agrees quietly. You didn't. The honesty is brutal and refreshing. Mrs. An opens the photo album, shows him pictures, Mr. An as a young man on his wedding day, holding babies who grew into the children Kyungrae briefly met at the funeral. Mr. An at company events, always in the background, always professional, always present. He loved driving, she says, touching a photo gently. Strange thing to love, maybe. But he said it gave him purpose, taking care of people, making sure they arrive safely. He took pride in that. Mrs. An, I need to tell you something about the night of the accident. Kyungrae's voice shakes despite his best efforts. Something I should have told you months ago. She closes the album, looks at him with eyes that have seen too much grief. I know. You... What? I know he'd been working 19 hours that day. I know you called him for one more trip when he should have been home. I know he was exhausted. Her voice is steady, factual. I know because he called me before that last drive. Said his boss needed him. Said it would be quick, just one more run, then he'd be home. I told him to say no. To tell you he was too tired. He said he couldn't refuse you. That you were counting on him. The guilt crashes over Kyungrae like a physical wave. Then you know it's my fault, he whispers. I killed him. I saw how tired he was and I didn't care. I prioritized a business meeting over his safety. His death is on me. Mrs. An is quiet for a long time. Then she says something unexpected. My husband was a grown man. 63 years old. He knew his limits. He could have said no. Should have said no. But he chose not to. She looks out at the river. I was angry at you for a long time, months. Furious that you'd demanded too much, taken too much, cost me everything. But I was also angry at him. For not protecting himself. For putting his job before his life. For leaving me alone. He shouldn't have had to choose. I should never have put him in that position. You're right. You shouldn't have. You were cruel that night, thoughtless. You treated him like a resource instead of a person. She turns to face Kyungrae fully. But he made his choice too. He could have refused. Could have called another driver. Could have lied and said the car was having mechanical problems. He didn't. He chose to say yes one more time. That doesn't make it less my fault. No. But it means you don't carry all the blame alone. Responsibility can be shared. Mrs. An's eyes are kind but firm. You were wrong. You made a terrible choice. You've been living in that wheelchair ever since. Your own punishment, whether you see it that way or not. But my husband wasn't a helpless victim. He was a man who made choices, and his last choice cost him his life. Kyungrae feels something crack open in his chest. Not absolution, but a slightly lighter distribution of crushing guilt. I'm sorry, he says, and the words feel desperately inadequate. I'm so sorry. I wish I could go back, make different choices, send him home, value his life over my ambition. I'd give anything to change that night. But you can't. So what will you do instead? The question sits between them like a test. I'm telling the truth, publicly, taking responsibility. I'm also changing how I treat people, how I value rest, boundaries, human limits. I'm trying to become someone who wouldn't make that choice again. Mrs. An nods slowly. That's good. That's right. She reaches into her purse, pulls out an envelope. These are letters, from people my husband drove over the years. Testimonials I collected for the funeral. They talk about his kindness, his professionalism, his care. I want you to read them. Not to ease your guilt. You should carry some of that. But to remember who he was. A full person. Not just the man who died in your service. Kyungrae takes the envelope with shaking hands. When you tell your truth, Mrs. An continues, tell his truth too. That he was dedicated, professional, beloved, that his death was a tragedy born from systemic issues, overwork, unrealistic expectations, corporate culture that values profit over people. Make his death mean something. Change the systems that killed him. I will, I promise. They sit in silence for a few more minutes. Then Mrs. An stands, preparing to leave. Do you forgive me? Kyungrae asks, voice small. She considers the question seriously. I'm working on it. Some days are easier than others. But I don't hate you. And I think my husband wouldn't want his death to destroy you completely. He believed in second chances, in people's capacity to grow. She touches his shoulder briefly, a gesture of complicated compassion. Grow from this. Honor him by being better. That's the forgiveness you should seek. She walks away, leaving Kyungrae alone with the river and the photos and the heavy gift of partial grace. He sits there for an hour, reading the letters. Stories of Mr. An helping a lost tourist find their hotel, waiting with a sick child until the parent arrived, driving carefully through a storm to ensure safety over speed, remembering regular passengers' preferences, their family news, their important dates. A full person, beloved, missed. Kyungrae adds these details to the statement he'll release tomorrow, not to absolve himself, but to honor the man whose death changed everything. When he finally wheels back to his car, he feels different. Not lighter. The guilt is still there, will always be there. But it's more manageable now. Shared with the truth. Witnessed by the person who had the most right to his confession. He can live with it now. Can carry it without being crushed. His phone buzzes. Naima. How did it go? He types back. Hard, necessary, good. I'll tell you everything when I get home. Her response. I'm here, whenever you're ready. And she is. When he arrives back at the penthouse, she's there with tea and quiet presence and the patient willingness to listen as he tells her everything. The conversation, the photos, the letters, the complicated gift of Mrs. An's partial forgiveness. You did the right thing, Naima says when he finishes. The hard thing and the right thing. Tomorrow we do the harder thing. We release everything. Together, she reminds him. Together. That night, they finalize the statement. Kyungrae's confession about the accident, Naima's documentation of their professional relationship, legal evidence of Jiwon's crimes. Everything packaged into comprehensive truth. They'll send it to major media outlets at 9 a.m. tomorrow, before Jiwon can strike again. Before more manufactured scandals can erode what's left of their reputations. It's terrifying and liberating in equal measure. As Naima prepares to leave for the night, Kyungrae catches her hand. Thank you, he says, for standing with me, for caring enough to risk your own reputation. We're in this together, she says simply. That's what partnership means. The word, partnership, hangs between them, full of possibility. Naima leaves. Kyungrae sits alone in his accessible, functional, renovated home and prepares for the storm that's coming tomorrow. But he's ready, finally, to face consequences with honesty instead of hiding in shame, to be accountable instead of destroyed, to begin again from truth. The statement releases at 9:03 a.m. Monday morning. Within minutes, it's everywhere. CEO SEO Kyungrae breaks. Silence. I am responsible for driver's death. Tech executive admits role in fatal accident, takes full accountability. SEO Kyungrae exposes ex-wife's blackmail scheme in stunning confession. The response is immediate and overwhelming. Some outlets focus on his confession about Mr. An, dissecting his culpability, debating corporate responsibility, interviewing labor rights advocates. Others focus on Jiwon's illegal surveillance and blackmail attempts. Still others examine the renovation project and Naima's professional credentials. By noon, the board has convened another emergency meeting. Kyungrae wheels into the conference room with So Young at his side and Naima at his back. Literally, she insisted on coming, standing behind his wheelchair like a warrior guarding her king. The board members look shell-shocked. Director Choi appears 10 years older than he did last week. Sajangnim, Choi begins carefully. This statement, the confession about Mr. An, you've opened the company to significant liability. I've opened myself to accountability. There's a difference. The shareholders are panicking, clients are concerned. There are already calls for your resignation. Then I'll resign. Kyungrae's voice is calm. Effective immediately. I'll step down as CEO but retain advisory capacity. You can appoint an interim leader. I'll cooperate fully with any investigation into the accident. I'll do whatever is necessary to ensure the company survives this. Silence crashes through the room. You're serious? Director Kim looks stunned. Completely. I'm not going to destroy this company to protect my position. If my resignation helps stabilize things, I'll do it. Choi leans back, studying him. Why? You fought so hard to maintain your role. Why surrender now? Because I'm not surrendering. I'm choosing. There's a difference between being forced out by blackmail and choosing to step aside for the greater good. I'm choosing. Kyungrae looks around the table at faces he's known for years. This company was built on innovation, excellence, vision. It can't thrive if its leader is mired in scandal and ethical questions. You need someone who can move forward without baggage. I'll step back, support the transition. Focus on the work that actually matters, changing the corporate cultures that kill people like Mr. An. One of the younger board members speaks up. What about Ms. Cross? The allegations about inappropriate relationship. Naima steps forward. Read the documentation we provided. Every interaction is documented, time-stamped, professional. I have 15 years of industry experience, multiple certifications, a portfolio of successful projects. My relationship with Mr. SEO has been entirely appropriate. If anyone doubts that, I invite investigation. Full transparency. The optics, though. The optics are two professionals doing excellent work while being targeted by someone with malicious intent. Naima's voice is steel. I'm not ashamed of anything we've done, and I won't let anyone suggest that competence and integrity somehow equal scandal. Another long silence. Finally, Choi speaks. The board needs to discuss this privately. Both of you, please step outside. Kyungrae and Naima wait in the hallway. So Young brings them coffee. Minutes stretch into an hour. Finally, they're called back in. Choi looks directly at Kyungrae. The board has voted. We decline your resignation. What? Your confession this morning. It was brave. Rare. In a business world full of executives who dodge responsibility and hide behind lawyers, you chose accountability. That's the kind of leadership this company needs. Choi glances at his notes. Stock initially dropped 12%, but it's recovering, faster than we expected, because the market respects honesty. Clients are calling, not to pull contracts, but to express support. Employees are rallying. Kyungrae struggles to process this. We're saying stay, keep your position, but with conditions. You'll work with an advisory team on corporate culture reform. You'll implement the accessibility standards Ms. Cross proposed. You'll champion the changes that prevent another Mr. An situation. You'll turn this tragedy into meaningful transformation. And if I can't, if the scandal is too much, then we revisit in 6 months. But right now, the board believes you're exactly the leader we need. Someone who's been broken and rebuilt. Someone who understands vulnerability. Someone brave enough to tell the truth. Kyungrae looks at Naima. She's smiling, eyes bright with something that might be tears. I accept, he says, on one condition. Ms. Cross becomes the permanent consultant for all company accessibility initiatives. Full contract, full authority, fair compensation. Already approved, Choi says, and there's the ghost of a smile on his face. Ms. Cross, welcome to the team. Long term. 3 months after the confession, Kyungrae's life has transformed in ways he never anticipated. The scandal died faster than anyone predicted. Ji-won's blackmail attempts backfired spectacularly. She's now facing criminal charges for illegal surveillance and extortion. Kang took a plea deal and resigned from the board in disgrace. The company's stock not only recovered, but hit new highs as investors appreciated the ethical leadership. But the real changes are smaller, more personal. Kyungrae now leads quarterly meetings on workplace culture. He's implemented mandatory rest policies for all employees. He established the On Fellowship, a program funding scholarships for children of company drivers and service workers. He speaks publicly about disability, accessibility, corporate responsibility, not as inspiration porn, but as honest testimony about his journey from arrogance to accountability. And Naima is there through all of it. She's finished the final accessibility renovation. The master bathroom, now fully functional with a roll-in shower, accessible fixtures, beautiful and practical. But she doesn't leave when the project ends. They fall into a rhythm. Dinners together several times a week. Morning coffee on the rooftop garden. Late-night conversations that blur professional into personal. The jade tree has tripled in size, new leaves constantly emerging. One evening in late autumn, Naima arrives at the penthouse with a strange expression. "I need to tell you something," she says, and Kyungrae's heart clenches with anxiety. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. It's just... My firm offered me a promotion, Director of Accessibility for Asia Pacific. It's based in Singapore. Significant pay increase. Major career opportunity. The world tilts." "That's incredible," Kyungrae manages, voice careful. "You should absolutely take it." "I turned it down." "What? Why?" Naima sits across from him at the kitchen table. Their table, where they've shared countless meals and conversations. "Because I'm exactly where I want to be. Because the best work I've ever done is what I've built with you. Not just the penthouse. This." She gestures between them. "Us. Whatever this is becoming. I don't want to leave it. But your career? We'll be fine. I have consulting contracts with your company and 3 others. I have enough work to keep me busy for years. I don't need Singapore." She reaches across the table, takes his hand. "I need to be where I'm building something real. And that's here, with you." Kyungrae's throat tightens. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything. Even though I'm..." "Don't." Her voice is firm. "Don't finish that sentence. You're not less. You're not broken. You're the person I choose. Every single day. Wheelchair and all. Guilt and growth and jade trees and accessible countertops. All of it. I choose all of it." He pulls her hand to his lips, kisses her knuckles. "I don't know what I did to deserve you. You let me in. You were honest. You grew. You became someone brave enough to be vulnerable." She smiles. "And you make excellent omelets." He laughs, and it's free and genuine. "Naima Cross, will you..." He pauses, suddenly nervous. "Will you move in with me? Officially, not as my contractor, as my partner." She pretends to consider. "Is the bedroom wheelchair accessible?" "You designed it. You know it is. And the kitchen?" "Perfect. You saw to that." "What about the man who lives here? Is he someone I can build a life with?" "He's trying to be. Every day. He's not perfect, but he's honest. And he's completely in love with you." The confession sits between them, huge and terrifying and true. Naima's eyes fill with tears. "Good. Because I'm completely in love with him too." She moves in the following week. Her plants join his on the rooftop. Her books fill the accessible shelves. Her presence transforms the penthouse from his space to theirs. They navigate it together, the adjustments, the compromises, the daily choreography of 2 people learning to share a life. It's not always smooth. They argue about thermostat settings and whether cilantro belongs in everything and whose turn it is to water the plants. But they also laugh, cook together, work side by side, build something neither of them expected, but both of them treasure. 1 year after the accident, Kyungrae visits Mr. On's grave. Naima comes with him. They bring flowers and the latest report on the On Fellowship. 5 students fully funded through university, career paths opening, futures made possible. I think he'd be proud, Naima says quietly. I hope so. I'm trying to honor his memory by being better, by building systems that value people. You are, every day. They stand there for a while, paying respects, then return to the car, to the life they're building together, to the home that's no longer a prison, but a foundation. 2 years after the accident, Kyungrae and Naima buy a house. Not a penthouse, not a status symbol. A real house in a quieter neighborhood, designed from the ground up for accessibility in life. They design it together. Every room intentional, every space functional. A home built for living rather than impressing. Single story, wide hallways, roll-in shower, accessible kitchen. Garden at ground level, where the jade tree gets transplanted to soil, roots spreading deep. The house fills with their life. Naima's architecture models on the shelves. Kyungrae's books about corporate ethics and disability rights. Photos from their travels. Accessible cities they explore together, proving that wheelchairs don't limit adventure, just change how you navigate it. They host dinners. So Young comes often, becoming friend rather than just secretary. Mrs. An visits once, sees the life her husband's death inadvertently shaped, offers her blessing. The jade tree thrives. Dozens of leaves now, reaching towards sun, growing despite obstacles. One evening, sitting in their accessible, beautiful lived-in home, Naima asks, "Do you ever miss it? The old life, before the accident?" Kyungrae considers the question honestly. Sometimes I miss walking, miss the physical freedom, miss not having to plan every movement, every transfer, every accommodation. But do I miss who I was? The arrogant CEO who valued profit over people? No, I don't miss him at all. He got you here, though. To this moment. He got me to the accident. You got me here, to home, to partnership, to becoming someone I can actually live with. Naima leans against him, and they sit in comfortable silence as the sun sets over Seoul. The penthouse sold 6 months ago to a young couple who promised to maintain the accessible features. Kyungrae hopes they use them. Hopes the space he once hated becomes someone else's liberation. His company thrives under his continued leadership. The accessibility initiatives Naima championed are now industry standard. The corporate culture has shifted. Rest is valued. Boundaries are respected. People matter more than profit margins. It's not perfect. There are still hard days. Still moments when Kyungrae mourns what he lost. Still times when ableism cuts deep and the world feels hostile. But he's not alone in those moments. Naima is there. So Young is there. A community of people who see him as whole, valuable, worthy. On their 3rd anniversary, not of marriage, but of the day Naima first walked into his life and measured that too narrow door, Kyungrae proposes. Properly, this time. Not a business arrangement. Real love. She says yes before he finishes asking. They marry in their garden, the jade tree behind them, roots deep and leaves reaching upward. Small ceremony. People who matter. Mrs. An officiates, offering blessing and closure, and the complicated grace of forgiveness earned through change. Kyungrae speaks his vows from his wheelchair, and they're honest. You didn't save me. You gave me tools to save myself. You didn't fix me. You showed me I wasn't broken. You didn't make me whole. You helped me understand I always was. I love you. Not because you accommodate my disability, but because you see past it to the person I'm becoming. Naima's vows are equally honest. You taught me that walls are just walls, that spaces can change, that people can grow. You showed me that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's the foundation of real strength. I love you, not despite your challenges, but with them, through them. because of how they've shaped you into someone brave enough to choose truth over comfort. They kiss. The small gathering applauds. The jade tree witnesses, thriving. That night, in the home they built together, Naima falls asleep with her head on Kyungrae's shoulder. He stays awake a while longer, listening to the quiet sounds of their life, the hum of the refrigerator, the distant city traffic. Naima's even breathing. The penthouse where this story began was all glass and steel and impossible expectations. A monument to a man who no longer exists. This house is wood and warmth and realistic hope. A testament to who he's become. Naima didn't renovate the penthouse to fix him. She built something that never existed there before. A place where he didn't need to be perfect to belong. Where his wheelchair wasn't a source of shame, but simply a tool, like her tape measure, helping him navigate the world. She gave him space. He gave her trust. Together, they built a home. And for the first time in 43 years, Seo Kyungrae understood the difference between a house designed to impress and a home made to last. The jade tree in their garden has 147 leaves now. Naima counts them every month. Kyungrae pretends not to notice, but he does. He notices everything about her. The way she hums while sketching. The way she rearranges the throw pillows every evening. The way she looks at him like he's exactly enough. On the 3rd anniversary of the accident, they plant a second jade tree in the garden. This one for Mr. An, a living memorial. A testament to resilience, survival, and the slow, essential work of transformation. Kyungrae waters it every Tuesday and Friday, the same schedule as the first tree. Naima joins him sometimes, dirt under her nails, sun on her face, completely at home in the space they designed together. They're not perfect. They argue about dishes and schedules and whether the bedroom needs another reading lamp. But every disagreement ends the same way, with compromise, with laughter, with the quiet certainty that they're building something that endures. Years from now, when people ask Kyungrae about the accident, he tells them the truth. It broke him, but it also rebuilt him. Not into who he was, but into who he needed to be. And when they ask about Naima, he smiles and says, "She's the architect who taught me that walls are just walls. It's the people inside them who make a house a home. The jade trees keep growing. The house keeps standing. The life they built keeps unfolding, one accessible, intentional, love-filled day at a time. That's not just survival, that's home."